Doctor, cancer still is such a big issue in this country. Why is that the case, and why are people still getting it at an alarming rate?
Because we've taken the wrong dog to the hunt. And it's illegal in the United States for anybody but an MD to treat cancer. And the MDs who go outside of the box, like there's a doctor in Texas, his name is Brzezinski. He has a very unique way of treating brain cancer. And I don't know how many times he's had to go to court to defend himself, right? Which is why there are no alternative, quote-unquote, cancer treatment centers in the United States anymore. They're all in Mexico or Sweden or wherever, because in the US you can't treat cancer unless you're an MD, and that's a problem. And so we've taken the wrong dog to the hunt. Now remember, right, from the proper perspective, everything makes sense. Your medical doctor doesn't know what's best for you. They only know what they've been trained in. And in this case, they've been trained in allopathic reductionism. Allopathic reductionism doesn't care about the causative factor of disease. So MDs, bless their hearts, don't even know how to cure heartburn. They can't cure it. They can manage it. To the profession that does not even know how to cure heartburn, we have given $600 billion to come up with a cure for cancer. Gee, I wonder why we aren't any closer to a cure for cancer than we were when Richard Nixon declared a war on cancer, right? It's because the tumor is not the disease, it's the result of the disease. But the MD sees it as the disease. They're taking completely 100% the wrong approach towards it, so much so that years ago, I think it was 10 years ago, don't quote me on that, the American Cancer Society stopped using the word cure. Now it's a 5-year survivability. So as far as the American Cancer Society is concerned, if you're diagnosed with cancer and you get conventional treatment, chemo, radiation, surgery, and you live for 5 years and 1 day and then die from cancer, it's considered a successful treatment. And it goes into the statistical record books as a positive outcome. Cancer treatment is so bad, our outcomes are so unbelievably bad that the American Cancer Society had to move the goalposts. And they stopped talking about a cure. Now it's 5-year survivability. And everybody in the United States buys it hook, line, and sinker. There was a famous study done in 2004, right? The American Journal of Clinical Oncology. They collected, I think, 11 years of data, right? And they looked at adults who had developed cancer and were treated with chemotherapy. And what they found and published in the American Journal of Clinical Oncology, 97% of the time, chemotherapy doesn't work. It doesn't work. So if the MD medical community is all about research and double-blind this and double-blind that and, you know, let's prove it, why is chemotherapy still being rolled out? Because it's been proven to be ineffective, doesn't work. So why on earth do they do it? Because it's a gigantic moneymaker. It's gigantic money. It's gigantic money. And it's a problem because, you know, we don't have a free medical market. And when you're the king, you can do whatever you want. And so cancer treatment fails, cancer treatment fails, cancer treatment fails, cancer treatment fails, cancer treatment fails. And we keep going back to the MDs because we don't have any other option. And quite frankly, when you've been pinned with a definitive diagnosis of cancer, you're afraid for your life.
Yep.
Your medical doctor could tell you to jump off the roof of the hospital and it's going to part of the treatment and most people would do it. And it's a problem. And also, because the medical industry is an industry, right, and it's involved with money and finances and profit, most of the time the oncologist doesn't inform the patient 100% about what's going to happen. They tell the patient what to do. They don't have a conversation with the patient about what they're going to do. They order the patient, well, Sorry, Mr. Smith, you've come back with a definitive diagnosis of prostate cancer. I have you scheduled for surgery on Wednesday. You're lucky there was an opening. And then we're going to start you on chemotherapy a week later. Go see the nurse and she'll schedule it. They don't have a conversation. I wrote a book called The MD Emperor Has No Clothes. Right? You can buy it through my website, drglidden.com. Get it from amazon.com. Download it right to your Kindle or your computer. In my book, I have 10 questions that every cancer patient needs to ask their oncologist in the presence of a recording device and a witness. 10 simple questions to be politely asked. Doctor, I've just been diagnosed with such and such a type of cancer. Does the therapy that you're recommending I get on board with cure my cancer? Does it cure my cancer? What causes my cancer? If the treatment you're recommending does not cure my cancer, what can I expect? What side effects from the cancer treatment can I expect? Can the cancer treatment give me cancer? How are you going to manage the side effects of the treatment if they happen? What's going to happen to the quality of my life while I'm undergoing this treatment? And how much are you going to profit from this treatment? How much is the hospital going to profit from this treatment? And I'd like to talk to 5 of your patients in my same demographic who have had the same type of cancer, who've had the same treatment that you're recommending, to see how they're doing. I think there might be a couple of more questions, but you get my drift. These are just simple, common sense questions that you would think the doctor would be forthcoming with if the doctor became involved with medicine to actually help people. But they don't. Now, the oncologist knows that their therapy has limited chances of success. The oncologist knows what side effect it's going to create. The oncologist knows everything. But the oncologist also is of the belief, the fundamental philosophical belief, that you are screwed. You've got cancer, Jack, and there ain't no going back. So even though this therapy is only 0.5% successful, you better just shut up and take your medicine, because there's nothing else for you to do. What are you going to do, a coffee enema? There's nothing else for you to do. So I know it's not a perfect world. I know it's not a perfect therapy, but it's all we've got, and you just need to do it because I'm the doctor and I said so.
Welcome, everybody. I am glad you're here. This talk is long overdue. As many of you may or may not know, I'm a cancer survivor. I beat cancer about 12, 13 years ago now. I had it, let's see, in 2012 I was actually formally diagnosed, but I actually had the tumor probably since the summer before in 2011. And then it was in 2012 when I was officially diagnosed, and then I fought it all of 2012. I fought it naturally. I went about it in a totally different way than the normal person. And because I did that, I availed myself to an entirely different perspective of life. And so in many ways, I consider cancer a gift. And I know that that is not what a lot of people want to hear. And I'm not trying to sell that idea. I'm just saying that when I went through the ordeal, the amount that I learned and the perspective that I gained from my bout with death was really transformative. And so, since that happened, within months of my being, told by Western medicine that I didn't have cancer anymore, my family and I just up and left. I left everything, because when I had cancer, one of the lessons that you learn is that cancer is a holistic disease, meaning that it affects your body, mind, and spirit. And you typically will get cancer, at least in the old times. I can't speak for now because the poisons have become so much more intense. But typically in the past, it took their life to get cancer. This whole idea of children getting cancer now and that being normalized is crazy. But cancer was a disease like diabetes. It took you until your later age to finally contract it. And the reason for that, I learned when I was in my bout with cancer. That was another thing that happened when I had cancer, is that no Western doctor could tell me why I had cancer, but all of my doctors that I use, and I'm going to introduce you to them here in a minute. But all the doctors that I used told me on the first visit why I had cancer, and we're going to get into that. But that was one of the first clues, you could say, when I was diagnosed with cancer, because a lot of the stuff I know now I didn't know when I began the battle with cancer. I just knew that I didn't want to subscribe to what the Western medical system was doing to people, because I had seen a lot of people, my senior, who were older than me, who went through cancer, and I saw what they did to these people, and I saw what happened to them. And I thought to myself, way before I ever got cancer, if I ever do get cancer, I'm not going to be doing what happened to these people. And so the whole thing was an approach from left field. Joseph Campbell talks about how we need to have more people that take the left-hand path, and not the left-hand path in the sense of Satanism, but the left-hand path in the sense of these individuals that don't obey society. They don't want to follow the rules, and they naturally are inclined to resist any kind of control and to push away from that once they find out or figure out that they are being controlled. And so these people don't fit into a society of obedience. They don't fit into a society where you're going to go to college for this long, and then you're going to go work in a cubicle for this long, and then you're going to retire or have kids and retire and all that kind of stuff. And just follow the rules, just follow the game plan. And when you get artists, I'm an artist, and when you get artists into the situation, well, they're going to have an entirely different way to skin the cat. They're going to have an entirely different way to approach the thing. And so when I was faced with a life-threatening disease, my first inclination, the first thing I thought was, well, I'm going to do it my way, and I'm not going to follow what anybody tells me to do, and I'm going to do it, my own way. And this really was the beginning. This really was the beginning of my, I guess you could say, dissecting myself from the life that I was in. Cancer is a disease that happens because of the path that you've always been on. And so if the path that you've been on has led you to cancer, you must change course. You must leave that path, because that path led you to death. It led you to the point of, if you don't change, you're going to die. And because nature's merciless, you're given that option on the front end. And it's your choice how you're going to handle this. But what nature's communicating is, you cannot continue down the path you've been on. And one of the reasons why you're getting this disease is that your body, mind, and spirit has become toxified. And toxification and being toxified became the common language for me as I went down this path, because the way that Western medicine approaches toxicity and the way that homeopathic medicine approaches toxicity are two totally and completely different paths. And that's why so many people who are familiar, say you're a Western medical doctor or you're a naturopathic doctor, that's why these two individuals are so polarized, because their telos is different. The naturopathic doctor is looking to detoxify you and to invigorate your immune system, whereas the Western medicine doctor doesn't even consider toxification, doesn't even consider nutrition, doesn't even really consider your path. Their concern is reductionism. And they're going to find that tumor, wherever the tumor is, that's the cancer. And so they're going to go in and they're going to get that tumor out. And when you get the tumor out, okay, we've healed you, or we're going to throw some radiation in you now, make sure we got it all, kind of a thing. And so it's sort of like, I always thought of it, and this is why, this is what motivated me. If you're working on your lawn and you notice some weeds, if you just go over the weeds with a lawnmower and get rid of all of the foliage that's coming out of the ground, you haven't really solved your weed problem. Because those weeds are going to grow right back overnight, because all the roots, the cause of the actual weed, the roots haven't been addressed at all. And so when you just chop the top off of the weed, you really haven't solved your problem. And I saw it the exact same way when it came to cancer. If I just cut out the tumor, I haven't really solved the reason why I got the tumor. And if I don't solve the reason why I got the tumor, I'm just going to grow more tumors. And that's exactly how Western medicine handles cancer. They just mow the lawn. They just mow over. They take the tumor out. The tumor is the flowering of cancer. It's the result of having cancer. It's the offspring of cancer. That's, in other words, that's not the cancer. The leaves that are growing up are not the actual weed. The actual weed is in the ground. It's the roots. The leaves are just the flowering of the roots. So if you're ever going to get rid of the weeds, you're going to have to de-root. You're going to have to pull the roots out. And it's the same thing with sickness and disease. It doesn't even have to be cancer. Any disease. The answer isn't just to take out the tumor. The answer isn't just to put a drug on it. You have to resolve why you grew that tumor. You have to resolve why you are so toxified. To me, this was common sense language when I had cancer, okay? But I found out the hard way that other people don't see it this way. And that typically the folks that are obedient, the folks that follow the rules, and the folks that do as they're told, well, they're going to go to the doctor, and they're going to do as the doctor says, because the doctor's the authority. You see how the philosophy starts kicking in here, because people have a different philosophy of how they approach sickness. And so for me, it was very common sense of, well, of course I wouldn't go to what I'm seeing happening around me. Of course I'm going to find out why I got cancer. I mean, that would be the first thing that I would be going after with any kind of situation in my life or anyone's life. It would just seem, you're going to go to the source. Like if you have a leak in your house, you're not just going to sit downstairs and keep mopping it up and throwing the bucket out, keep mopping it. You're going to go find what is leaking. If I don't solve the leak, what good am I doing? And that's how I felt. If I just keep throwing drugs at this, like say I have depression. Well, if I just keep throwing SSRIs at this, if I just keep throwing drugs at this, I just keep throwing antidepressants at this, am I solving the problem? And this is what Western medicine just completely ignores. It's like it's the pink elephant.
If you're depressed and you want to feel better in less than 15 minutes, take 250 to 500 milligrams of pure niacin. That will cause a flush. You'll look like you have a sunburn, or you'll feel like you're having a hot flash. And you will not feel depressed if you do that. That's a nice temporary way of testing this theory about vitamin B3. If a person is down and miserable and depressed, and they take high doses of niacin, they will notice an immediate improvement. I worked with a lady once who was suicidally depressed. She lived at home with her family. She was in her 50s, and she spent all day sitting in a corner, face to the corner. She wouldn't talk to anyone. She wouldn't eat with anyone. She was totally uncommunicative. She was under the care of a psychiatrist, of course, as she should be, and the psychiatrist had her on a variety of medications, which you would expect. The family was wondering about nutrition, and I mentioned to them about Dr. Hoffer's work with niacin. And they wondered how much she needed to take. This person was very seriously ill. And I mentioned that Dr. Hoffer normally gave about 3,000 milligrams a day of niacin, but some people need a lot more, especially very sick people, and they should give her as much as it takes to make her better. Well, they figured they could do that. So at 11,500 milligrams of niacin a day, she was sitting at the table and talking to them like nothing had happened. Now, if you or I took 11,500 milligrams of niacin, we would be glowing, beet red. We would have such an intense niacin flush, and probably we would have other symptoms too, itching, maybe even nausea. But for her, because she had a vitamin dependency, that was the amount for her which made her better. 11,500 milligrams of niacin a day. So they went to the psychiatrist, showed the psychiatrist this recovered person, and the psychiatrist said, well, I don't think you should take all that niacin. It might be harmful. So they stopped giving her the niacin, and she was back in the corner.
Some of your advisors, likely, if you're looking at both Western and Eastern or homeopathic medicine, you're getting opposite advice. And one of the key parts you're getting opposite advice in is toxicity. And that the Western system doesn't even address that. They don't address the toxicity of the liver. They don't address nutrition. They don't address some of the basic biological fundamentals of what you need to address if you're going to be a healthy human being. But yet on the other side of that, naturopathic doctors, they're obsessed with toxins. They are obsessed with the condition of the liver, in a good way. I'm not saying in a negative way. They're obsessed with the filter organs, the livers, the liver, the kidneys, the spleen. They're obsessed with these things because these are what bring about your vitality, bring about your immune system, bring about your life. And so it's an entirely different mindset from the naturopathic perspective as it is from the Western perspective. I mean, look at what they're feeding cancer patients when they're in the hospital. I mean, they're giving them Jell-O, they're giving them foods, GMO-laced foods, and they're not giving them basic nutrition. And you see, to those that are on the other side, say the Gerson Center, they would see this as blasphemy to the body, to be feeding the body processed foods, Jell-O and ice cream, when the body is fighting disease. You see, and so this is why there is such an incredible rift between the Western doctor and the naturopathic doctor, because they are approaching life from two opposite perspectives. The Western doctor is approaching it from this reductionistic scientific perspective that isn't God-oriented. There's no consideration for the chakras. There's no consideration for the sixth sense. There's really not a whole lot of consideration for the basic immune system, because they're giving you petrochemicals which are going to tell the immune system what to do, you see. And so it's a very directing, monotheistic, very overbearing, overriding approach to the body. Whereas the naturopath, they're coming in from the approach of, we want to invigorate the immune system so that the best doctor in the world, namely your immune system, is given all the necessities that it needs to function at its optimum peak performance. Because that doctor's going to fight harder for you than any doctor you would ever hire. Your body, your immune system is going to fight harder and work day and night to bring about your health. And no other doctor is going to be able to bring that to you. And so the naturopath, their approach is, we're not going to tell the immune system what to do. We're going to invigorate the immune system, because nobody knows better what to do but the immune system itself. And that's the omniscience that is within each one of us. It's the same omniscience that makes baby in mama's tummy. And mama can't tell you all the physiology and chemistry that it takes to make a baby. No doctor can tell you that. But she knows exactly how to do it. And this is the wisdom body. This is another thing that Western medicine doesn't recognize. There's a wisdom body. There's a function, there's a vitality within the body that is universal. It's the same vitality in the tree. It's the same vitality that is running the tide, moving the tides. It's the same vitality that is shining the sun. And this vitality is in all of nature, and so therefore it is also in you, because you are a nature creature in a nature world. You see, all these things are connected. And what I found was that the Western doctor doesn't see all these things as connected. I mean, there's a doctor for every organ in your body, and all of them have their own opinion. And so there's not a whole lot of connectivity going on here. It's, hey, this is what you need to do. This is what's required. This is what the body wants, on and on. They're going to direct it, much like a pastor in a church. And so these two approaches are polarized. And so my approach was, why not take the best portions of Western science and the best portions of Eastern science approaches and integrate the two? And by finding that balance, see, you're utilizing the best of both worlds for you and your situation, because no situation can be repeated. Each and every life is unique. And so every disease, especially these tough ones, are going to be unique for every single person.
Medicine is like a big pizza, and there are different slices of the pizza. The slice of the pie of medicine that the MDs are trained in has no time, no respect, no appreciation, and no concern for anything other than drugs and surgery. Now, there's nothing wrong with drugs and surgery when they're used appropriately. Again, right, thank God for Novocaine and morphine and the sterile technique and penicillin. But MDs are not taught anything other than their piece of the pie because the pharmaceutical industry has leverage over what the MDs are taught. Also, the pharmaceutical industry has leverage over what type of research is done at universities in the United States. It's not medical research that's done. It's pharmaceutical research. Is any research being done about homeopathic medicines or botanical medicines or the use of acupuncture or the use of medical nutrition? No. None of that's being done. It's all about inventing a new drug or a new gene splice or something else. It's all filling in the piece of the pie of science that the MDs are trained in. You know, it's kind of like you wouldn't expect a Republican in the United States to give you advice about a social program, nor would you expect a Democrat to give you advice about war funding, military funding, because it's not really their thing, right? You wouldn't expect a Buddhist to tell you about Judaism, and you wouldn't expect a Roman Catholic to tell you about reincarnation, because it's just not their thing. Well, medical doctors are not trained in medical science. Nobody is. Medical doctors are trained in allopathic reductionism. And allopathic reductionism has no time, no concern, no appreciation for anything other than drugs or surgery.
I, therefore, because I went through this whole process and I went about it through, you could say, the left-hand path, I learned I had a perspective of this whole thing that was completely off the map. Because it was common sense to me to say, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and you keep getting cancer, you keep getting sick, but you keep doing the same thing, that's called insanity. You see, and when you come about this like I did, and you don't recognize the authorities and you reject what the authorities say, well, see, therefore, that you're going to have an entirely different experience. And so what happened as a result was I got a massive, massive, massive education in biology, human physiology, the environment, where cancer comes from, how to deal with cancer homeopathically without using a bunch of drugs. You see, it was totally different thing. And then, therefore, how do I invigorate my immune system? How do I provision my immune system so that it has the tools to do the job? Because no one is going to love me more, care for me more, want me to live more than my own immune system. It's the best doctor I can hire. It's the best doctor I can pay. 24/7, 365. That doctor is working for you. And you are the only concern on its mind. You see, there's no distractions. So I, again, common sense, thought, well, I want to hire that doctor. I want to provision that doctor. I want to give my immune system every single bit of what it needs so that it can go then do the job, which is either resolve the tumor, the flowering of the cancer, or at minimum, resolve why I got the cancer. So that even if I have the tumor removed, my whole focus was what's feeding the tumor? Why am I sick? Get that resolved so that I never grow a tumor again, and when and if they have to take that tumor out, that it doesn't grow back. There's no residual. You see the approach? It's an entirely different philosophy. Because you are proactive, like that's the thing, is when you go homeopathic, you are the initiator. You don't go and get a prescription, go to the doc and get the pills, or go to the pharmacy, get the pills, and go home and every few hours take your pills. That is not homeopathy. Homeopathy is a job. 24/7, 365, your mind becomes detoxification, fortification of my immune system, keeping my spirit, my mind, my whole mental side clean and clear, resolving issues in my mind, things that are concerning me, causing me to be depressed, causing me to overeat, undereat, causing me to under exercise. You see? What is driving these things? This is the work of psychology. That's why all of my videos are so psychologically obsessed. What are my motivations? What is inspiring me? That's the thing. If you're going to fight cancer like this, you're going to have one heck of a motivator. Well, what's going to motivate you? Knowledge. Educating yourself. Awareness. Because when you become aware of the pool of toxins that you're standing in, that you weren't aware of before you took a look, you get very, very motivated. Every system that I'm looking at critically, I'm finding out is actually turned against me. Like, the medicine industry is not actually about getting me better. They're about keeping me sick. They're about managing me. It's not about me healing and then I go manage myself. The whole Western methodology is, no, I'm your doctor, I'm going to manage your health. That's my job as the doctor. It's the same thing in religion. It's the priest's job to manage to you, to communicate to you the authority, the ideology, the religious ideology that they are trained in. And the doctor's the same exact method, MO, same. I'm the authority. The doctor isn't there to learn any more than the priest is there to learn. The doctor knows. He's the priest of medicine. And he knows. He even has a white jacket and a college degree on the wall qualifying him to be your doctor. You see? So you can't question that. You obey. See, here's the philosophy. You obey. There is, if you start taking all this stuff apart psychologically, meaning the world, medicine, politics, religion, if you start taking all that stuff apart psychologically, what you're going to find out is all of them are set up that you are subservient to them, to the systems, that you're a slave. It's a child's philosophy to the world. I surround myself with authorities and then I obey them. You see, and that's the whole way this whole thing is set up, so that society doesn't ever start thinking for itself. That's the last thing an authority wants, is for you to start thinking for yourself, deciding for yourself. And this harkens back again to what I mentioned earlier. I found out in my life, my closest people in my life that I had relationships to, when I made these decisions and I didn't follow the authorities and I didn't obey, I mean, I was threatened at one point. I had a family member tell me, if you die, I will tell your kids you never loved them. I had an individual tell me that because I wasn't following orders. I wasn't obeying the Western doctors, and they were incensed that I wasn't doing that I wasn't obeying, that I wasn't doing as they said. You see? And this is exactly how fanatics lose relationships in their lives, because as soon as someone starts thinking differently than they do, unequally yoked comes to mind. You see? That's the introduction. Sorry, this thing just kind of got started. This is the Way of Detox. And the reason why I named this the Way of Detox, this is in honor of Alan Watts, who wrote the book The Way of Zen, which was one of the most influential books that I ever read in my entire life. And the Way of Detox is sort of the biological version of the spirituality that Alan talked about in his book. Totally changed my life. And so I'm hoping the Way of Detox totally changes your life in the sense of your perspective of medicine, your perspective of human health, your perspective of the power that you have inside. And our goal today is to really infuse that in you today, and to really show that to you today, to render that to you. I'm going to try to render that to you today. Okay. So who are you looking at? This is Chuck Swindoll Jr., that handsome chap there on your right. I'm a cancer survivor. I utilize naturopathy, Chinese medicine, enzymology, and conventional surgery to heal from cancer and its cause. I am not a doctor, nor think of myself as one. Let me be clear. Nothing that I'm telling you today is advice. Nothing that I'm telling you today is a panacea, is an end-all, be-all. I get sick just like everybody else. I haven't found the tree of life. I'm not de-aging, any of that kind of stuff. There's no hocus pocus here. Excuse me. I can tell you, though, I'm not on any medications. The only medicine I take is cannabis. That's it. I don't touch anything else. Everything I'm going to be showing you today is not pharma. It is homeopathic techniques and science that backs up those homeopathic techniques. That's what I'm showing you today. So I'm not giving you a cure-all, end-all, be-all. I'm basically approaching you the same way I approach a person if they said, hey, Chuck, what are some things I can do every day to detox? And the person that says, hey, Chuck, I got stage 4 cancer. What are some things that I can do to detox? Or what are some things I can do to heal? I would tell these two people the same thing. The approach is the same. Detoxification. Obsession with detoxification. That's why I opened this video with that story about Dr. Gerson. Because the whole story is about detox and how coffee enemas detox the liver. We're going to get into that. And when you detox the body immediately responds. That's what you need to understand with these homeopathic techniques and all this kind of stuff. When you hit on something that works for you, go there. I am a survivor, and I learned some old school detoxing techniques along the way that are not only effective at fighting diseases, but are effective detox and equilibrium methods that apply to each of us. The way one fights cancer is the same way one fights a cold, cleaning the liver, kidneys, colon, and blood with clever detoxing techniques based in naturopathic medicine that are effective and affordable. And that's one of the great things to tell you today. It's not a bunch of expensive stuff I'm bringing you today. I'm not trying to sell you anything today. I have nothing to sell you. I'm actually going to be showing you some techniques that are really pennies on the dollar. And the efficacy of them, meaning what they do for the amount of money you have to put into them, meaning pennies, what they do for that amount is truly remarkable. I mean, how much is a bottle of apple cider vinegar? How much is a cup of coffee? And this is the basic biology that I'm going to be presenting to you today. That's why it's so awesome. Okay, so let's consider this. We live in a toxic world filled with pathogens, parasites, and pharma. For the body to effectively heal itself, it must be detoxified of environmental obscenities, which accumulate in our filtering and excretion systems. And this is no longer a big sell anymore, is it? We see the trails in the sky. We see the smokiness around us. We breathe and smell the smokiness. We smell the chemicals. When we go out, if we live, say, in the big city, we smell the diesel engines, we smell the toxins, right? When folks wear a ton of perfume, you can smell the petrochemicals coming off of them. This is toxic. I found this out from my naturopathic doctor. We'll get into it, but this is toxic. All the perfumes that they have in the stores, especially the stuff that folks are using for like their deodorants and their soaps and the shampoos they're using, these things are filled with toxins. And since our skin, like right here, you can see our skin, liver, kidneys, colon, and blood, these are filters, these are detoxifiers of our body. They accumulate with toxins. So it's a progressive thing. Is it going to kill you to smell someone who's wearing a ton of perfume or something that's filled with petrochemicals? No, it's not going to kill you. But if you're doing that every day, let's say like you ride the subway, or let's say like you are in a group or something, and one of the people there is always just loaded with perfume or cologne or whatever, and you're breathing that every single day until you don't even smell it anymore, like you're around them for hours. Okay, this is toxification. Your whole olfactory system, it's only 5 millimeters, according to my naturopathic doctor, it's only 5 millimeters away from your actual brain matter. 5 millimeters. So when you breathe something, a petrochemical that has gases within it, that they will attach to your olfactory nerves that are way up in your sinuses. Those are 5 millimeters from brain. You're putting petrochemicals right on your brain. When you breathe this stuff, it's just environmental toxins that we face. Sirens and noise, chemicals in the air, diesel fuels, petrochemicals, on and on the list goes. You see, and it's just it's a scale game. It's an accumulation game. And the more toxins you are exposed to, the more you leverage yourself into cancer, because these filtering organs, the skin, liver, kidneys, colon, and blood, these filtering systems in your body accumulate over time. They accumulate toxins over time. And so this is really to begin to understand how you get sick. This is how you get sick. You eat GMO foods, foods that your digestive system can't really digest that well. And so inflammation begins. And when you get inflamed, that puts toxins and free radicals into your body. And that often will lead to diseases. Like if you inflame your gut all the time with overprocessed foods, eventually you're going to get IBS. Eventually you're going to get some kind of stomach disease, some type of colorectal disease, because it's just a matter of time. And if you keep persisting and behaving in that way, and you don't change your path, like I mentioned at the beginning, you see, if you don't change your path, you're just going to get sicker and sicker, and eventually the body you'll die. Your immune system won't be able to fight it off anymore, because it won't be there won't be enough ways you can get rid of the toxins, and eventually you die of over-toxification, like a alcoholic dies of alcohol toxification. Okay. All right, next page. Now here we're going to begin some biology. The colon is 80% of your immune system, and the gut, here we go, the gut is the principal provider of our nutrients and neurochemistry. Okay, so did you know that? A lot of people already do, but did you know that your colon, specifically your colon, is over 80% of your immune system? That's one of the reasons why Dr. Gerson was so obsessed with the colon in fighting disease. Because Dr. Gerson knew all of your antigens, all of your T cells, not all, but a majority of your antigens, a majority of your T cells, a majority of your serotonin, all this neurochemistry, biochemistry that runs your body, it's all coming from your gut, and most of it from your colon. Now, everyone needs to understand, when it comes to fighting disease, and that includes depression, your brain is directly connected to your gut mind. These things work cohesively together. In other words, the serotonin, the tryptophan, the neurotransmitters, the neurotransmission that's happening in your neurotransmitters at the synapse, all of that chemical pharmacological function is coming out of your gut. So get this, follow this. The healthier your gut, the cleaner your gut, the healthier your mind, the cleaner your thoughts. Do you see that? These things work hand in hand. They are not disconnected. These things are connected. That's why it's so important to holistically approach your disease and your issue. Because you need to understand, hey, if I'm putting a bunch of antidepressants for my brain, if I'm putting those in my gut, what are they doing to my gut? Because my gut is running all of my brain pharma. You see, and this is the disconnect. This is why, say, a doctor puts you on SSRIs and you start having all these digestive issues. It's because the SSRIs, serotonin selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, that's what those are messing around with your serotonin system, which is your mediator, which is the chemical that brings about balance and equilibrium in your life. This is why they have developed SSRIs, because they want to mess with this feeling you have of equilibrium, satisfaction, peace, rest. These are all centered around your serotonin. And that's why the chemists have developed drugs that directly affect that serotonin system. We'll see when they do that, they also now are directly affecting your digestive system. In the same way, morphine, if you're trying to deal with your pain issues, you'll take morphine. Well, morphine stops muscle function in your colon. That's why you get constipated when you're on painkillers like morphine. It's an opioid. Okay, and it's the same thing with an antidepressant. If you're taking an SSRI and you start having gut problems, well, the reason for that is because they're messing with your serotonin system, which is coming out of your gut. Okay. Well, if you're putting your digestion into disequilibrium, how effective are you going to be fighting depression if your gut is in pain or your gut isn't working, getting the nutrition that you need to build the building blocks of feelings to understand yourself? We'll see a naturopathic doctor understands these things. So a naturopathic doctor is Of course, the first place we're going to start is your gut. The toxins. The toxins that are affecting your blood so that you don't have clean blood. And when you don't have clean blood, you're not making clean neurochemistry. That affects your brain. That's why you get fuzziness. That's why you're demotivated. That's why you don't have any energy. You see, we are pharmacological beings, and you have to pay attention to the whole system. And it's sort of like, hey, you ask your mechanic, hey, my car won't start, and they begin to take the engine out. It's like, wait, this could be fixed by just putting some gas in the tank. You see? And if you don't know the whole car, and you don't understand, in other words, the whole body, then if you are a mechanic and you begin to do work on this car and you don't understand the drivetrain and you're working on, or you don't understand the starter motor and you're working on the engine, something's wrong here. And you can see how our society has gotten the way that it has gotten. All these doctors are all autonomous in their degree. A liver doctor knows the liver. A foot doctor, a podiatrist knows the foot. A gastroenterologist knows your gut. You know? I can't name it, but an ocular physician, they will know your eye. It's just all of these doctors are isolated and they're not studying. They get a couple little courses, but they're not really taking in the whole body when it comes to an issue. And when it comes to cancer, it's your whole body, friend. When it comes to autoimmune disease, it's your whole body, friend. When it comes to autism, it's your whole body, friend. You see? And so the first place to look is the colon, because that's 80% of your immune system. That's the logic behind this. That's why Gerson was obsessed with the colon. That's why, essentially, friend, it would be a good idea to become obsessed with your colon cleanliness, because that's affecting your brains. That's affecting your ability to uptake nutrients, to make neurochemicals, neurotransmitters that allow you to think. You see how important then it becomes to have a clean gut. Because a clean gut means what? A clean mind, or that's the hope. And how can I have a clean mind if I've got a colon full of rotting detritus? How can I? Can I? You see, this kind of thing, when it begins to clarify in your head and you realize, oh my goodness, this is really the source of a lot of our problems. Because look at all the gut problems today. Look at where the KM have gone after us. Right in the gut, man. Look at all of the gut problems in children now. Because their parents have been eating GMOs. Their parents have been taking SSRIs. Their parents have been completely subscribing to the Western medical system, which does not consider nutrition at all. And so what happens to that society? Well, their genetics are compromised. Everybody's just going to get a vaccine. They're just ignoring what that does to the immune system. Just go get the shot and you're fine. You see, it's delusional. And this is why we're seeing now children getting cancer. That's why.
Go to your public elementary school at lunchtime, get a pass from security and sit in a chair in the hall outside the nurse's office at lunchtime. The amount of kids that are lined up to take their meds is jaw-dropping. You think you know how bad this is? You have no idea. It is an epidemic of biblical proportions. How many kids are on psychoactive meds? It's a problem. Now, again, there's a legitimate thing going on here. There's a legitimate problem that these kids have with concentrating. They're not making it up, and it's not because of a bad educational system. These kids are not right in the head. Something needs to be done. Why aren't they right in the head? Because what do they have for breakfast? Margarine, Sunny D, sugar smacks, right? And then for lunch, skim milk and pizza, right? Loaded with gluten. They've never taken a vitamin supplement in their entire life. Their body is developing in an undernutrified state. And so guess what? Something's going to break. So they can't think straight. They can't concentrate. They're crazy. They're reactive. 1/3 of the American population is obese. It's increased by 30% in the childhood population. It's nuts. And you're not overweight because you're lazy. You're not overweight because you have a bad gene. You're not overweight because your stomach's too big or because you have a stomach. You're overweight because you have nutrient deficiencies and your body is starved to death. Your body knows it's starved to death. Your body forces you to eat to fill up your nutrient tank, but the food that you're eating doesn't have the nutrients you need. So you'll pig out at Olive Garden because you have to. You'll eat 3,000 calories in 30 minutes, and 2 hours later, you're starving again. And then you go to your medical doctor, and he tells you your stomach's too big, so gastric bypass or lap band surgery. Or, take speed, take amphetamines to amp you up so much you don't want to eat. Or you're lazy, get on the gym, get on the treadmill. It's nuts. I'm telling you, it is out of control, which is why my mantra, fire your MD, because they've got nothing for you for this stuff. Now, heaven forbid you have a bullet in your arm, your leg snaps in two, you have a bleeding artery, go to the MD, because that's their wheelhouse. You need surgery, go to the MD. And the stuff that we can do with surgery now is awesome. But for everything else, they're the leading cause of bankruptcy and the leading cause of death. And their philosophy of healing is outdated, old-fashioned, incorrect, and dangerous.
You can see how then this talk really upsets a lot of people, because folks don't want to change their eating habits. They don't want to change where they live. They don't want to change their religion. They don't want to change their doctor. They don't. Change is hard. Growth is painful. Okay, so it's a whole process of education and awareness. So the first thing to begin to know today as we're studying this is your colon is 80% of your immune system, and it also facilitates your thinking ability, your ability to maintain homeostasis with your mind, and think of how much that affects your spirit. That's how important this is. In fact, there are more neurons in the gut than the spine. The secret Western medicine does not want you to know. A clean gut sharpens the mind, tempers depression, syncs the biorhythms, and evokes confidence. Gut, and therefore immune health, is one of the most important assets in your experiential arsenal, as it extends your life, sharpens your mind, informs your discernment, and fosters your vitality. It all starts here, right in the gut. That's where it all starts. That's why I said confidence, evokes confidence. How confident are you walking into a board meeting, walking into a serious situation, and you got all kinds of gut pain and all kinds of gut problems? How confident are you? You see, how confident are you if you're carrying some kind of serious disease? How confident are you going out and participating in life in general when you're at, say, stage 4 cancer? You're depleted. And I'm not blaming anybody here. I'm just saying this is just awareness of the psychology that's been going on. And the reason why they're coming after your health is because it lowers your vibration. It lowers your ability to be inspired to change, inspired to help the society, inspired to help your neighbor. You see what I'm saying? It's depleting you of the energy to partake and participate in those activities in life that better the world and that better yourself and that better society. See, if you keep a society sick, there's not a whole lot of that going on. I think that's one of the reasons why when you look at all the pictures like from the beach in the 50s and 60s, everyone is, pretty healthy. There's basically not an obese person to be found anywhere. And that's the whole mentality and mind of that society is entirely different than the mentality and mind that you see in society in large groups of people now, regardless of their weight. But just look at the mindset and how the weight contributes to that. The gut problems contributes to the mind problems, which contributes to the societal problems, which is how you're communicating with people. What spiritual level are you on with others? With just your around, the environment that's just around you. You see, and that's why there has been so much work and effort put in to making you sick. Continuing, the way we heal from any disease long-term is the same way we maintain health long-term, actively participating in detoxification therapies and homeopathic practices. This is a daily requirement, and it is non-negotiable. If the liver is not being cleaned, or the mind is not being used, or the body is not being challenged, each will atrophy, accumulate toxins, stagnate, become sickly, and it worsens with time. Why? Because nature's merciless, so there are no shortcuts to health. We each, as conscious nature creatures, are responsible for our own health, and participation in detoxification is a first step. And look at the pictures I've got here. I have this couple on the left who are engaging in exercise, and then I have this lovely lady here on the right who is reading. What are these folks doing? They're detoxifying. One is detoxing their physiological body. One is detoxifying their mind. This is daily life, folks. This is why meditation speaks to so many people. Moment of quiet and respite in the day. So you see, it's balance. It's some entertainment, some go, some rest, sometime eating, sometimes just laughing with friends, doing nothing. It's holism. This is the human experience. And so I'm just encouraging everybody that this is important. Don't become an ascetic, but at the same time, don't become a workaholic. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Disease, or dis-ease, as my enzymologist used to put it, is a way the body leverages change. Your body will never lie to you. And nature, your body, follows what Watts called the course of nature. So, you get out what you put in, and this applies to the mind as much as it does the body. If the sick individual refuses to change course in their lifestyle, beliefs, behaviors, and motivations, well, they'll remain sick, because it is the lifestyle, beliefs, behaviors, and motivations that brought them to the place of dis-ease. Well, my friend, that's, as Led Zeppelin once claimed, nobody's fault but mine. Translation, health is a choice one makes, not a gift one is bestowed. Nature pulls no punches, carries no debts, and tells no lies. Follow the course of nature or suffer the consequences. The end. And that's why I put these pictures up. These are societies. Unhealthy societies, group mind, group think societies, assumed societies. That's what these pictures are representing. And I'm simply showing this to say you're going to have to leave those societies, you're going to have to adjust those societies, your concept of them, in order to become healthy. You're going to have to approach the world differently. I used to think when I was younger that my life had a plan, that God had a plan for me, and that my role was simply to tune in to whatever that plan was that God had for me, and everything would be okay. I just put my focus on that plan, whatever that plan is, and that is the way to go. That's going to lead me to the big whammy, the big moment, right? Okay, I used to think that until I read Alan Watts, and I realized, no, actually, you have much more choice than that in life. You are not a prisoner. Your destiny is not set. There is not a plan for you. You make the plan based on what you know in your awareness, and that becomes the plan that became your life. But it wasn't preset. Your life isn't predetermined. Every single choice you make determines your life. That wasn't pre-done. I grew up in a religion that took on the belief. It was Christianity that took on the belief that God had a plan for you when you were first conceived in your mother's womb. Already set. God already knew your life, knew everything that was going to happen, and knew all your experiences. And I'm here to tell you that's not true. Because you're free. You're not imprisoned to that. You're truly free. You are truly free. It's the ideologies and the quote-unquote religions and belief systems that are put into you that imprison you. The approach is that you simply awaken and you make the way. You align to the course of nature, which becomes your way of nature. And what do we know about nature? There's no way to put straight lines in it. There's no way to have an absolute. That's not how nature works. And so you're the same way. You see, so there's freedom here. And you see that follows right into the line from Led Zeppelin. That's nobody's fault but mine. That's nobody's fault but yours. That's nobody's fault but mine. You see? We choose these things. And this is a part of disease because most oftentimes, and Bruce Lipton will tell you, that epigenetics will tell you this. That if you think, meaning that if you think that you're sick, if you think that you have a problem, if you think that you're a sinner, if you think that you're a dirty carbon generator, if you think that you're sickly and you have to have vaccines, you see, if you do that, you become that. You become that.
In school, most people learn the science of genetics, which is the belief that genes control our traits. This science is really based on the fact that we get our genes from our mother and father at the moment of conception, and that these genes at that moment of conception actually will determine the rest of our lives in regard to our physical, emotional, and behavioral characteristics. A new science is called epigenetics, And epigenetics is an understanding that genes are not self-actualizing, meaning genes do not turn on and off. Genes are just blueprints. And the significance of that is that in order to engage a blueprint, it's not the blueprint's activity, it's the contractor's activity, the one who reads the blueprint that controls the blueprint. So in epigenetics, it's a science of how environmental information selects the genes and can modify the readout of the genes. And this becomes very significant because in genetic control, the old story, we are victims of our genetics. And the new story, epigenetics, because we can change the readout of the genes, we can then become masters of our genetic. And this becomes important because we actually control our health with our beliefs, our perceptions, and our attitudes about life.
That's why every sinner fights to stay a sinner. That's why every medicine-obsessed individual fights for those vaccines. It's the same obsession. It just has a different costume. And the only way you're going to be free is if you decide for yourself, not do as you're told. That's the only way you're going to be free. You're going to have to think for yourself. As scary as that is, as mortifying as that is for so many people, you will have to start thinking for yourself if you're going to go into the Great Awakening. Because it is not for a world composed of ideologies. It's much freer than that. Let's keep going. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce you to my awesome doctors. First non-Western doctor I saw on this journey was Dr. Danette Goodyear. She is a naturopathic doctor. Unfortunately, she's semi-retired, but she does serve on the Young Living team. She taught me the power of nature, electromagnetics, plant medicines, the immune system, and naturopathy's frequency and resonation strategies. Her knowledge of nature's methodology and Western medicine's biocorruption was astounding. A ruthless nature warrior. I sat across the desk from Danette for 8 months of my life every week and would talk for an hour every week about every single biological thing you can imagine. I mean, I'm a person, I like to ask questions, and I'm naturally inclined to figuring out as much as I possibly can. And so Danette was incredible. She answered every one of my questions, and she was so knowledgeable in the power of plants, the power of resonation, the power of essential oils. This gal really understood. And to just give you a quick understanding of that, one of the things that she did is she had me hold on to 2 brass bars, which were connected to a quantum system, a quantum computer thing that she had in her laptop. And what it did is it was a frequency counter, and it worked through the electromagnetics, which is why the bars were metal. And so when I would hold on to these bars, there would be DC voltages that would pass through the bars that would ring my body like a bell. So every single cell, every single organism, every single organ, everything in your body has a resonation frequency. And every single one of them is different. And then you have classes of frequency. So when you have a class of bacteria, they're going to have a very specific frequency that their bodies resonate at, just due to the way they're put together. And every single one of these bacteria, fungi, pathogens have markers resonance-wise in the same way you have fingerprints. Each family of bacteria and fungi have a resonation frequency. And so when they ring your body, meaning the naturopathic doctor pumps voltage into your body, this resonates these structures. So they ring. And the receiver on the other end of the bars in her computer could count, like a watch, a quartz watch counts the resonations of the vibrations of the quartz particle that's inside the watch. And so it's the same thing. The computer was able to count the frequencies that were coming out of my body, and Danette was able to diagnose me without ever having to, she never had to examine me. I just simply held on to the bars, and through the computer she was able to find all the toxins in my body. Okay, well, once she was able to identify the toxins that are in my body and what is making me sick, she then gives me plant oils, plant medicines that I ingest, rub on my skin, put up my ass, swallow with my mouth, breathe in with my nose, all these different methodologies to get these compounds into the body to invigorate my immune system. And she does this based on what she knows the bacteria, the pathogens that are in my body. And so like out in nature, Plants have an immune system, and so they build compounds that build the molds and fungi that are trying to eat them and kill them. And it's the same thing with you. You have mold and fungi and pathogens that are trying to eat and kill you. And there are compounds that plants make that either you don't make or you don't have available to you, that they make that can be ingested into your body that will fight the molds, pathogens, fungi, parasites that are growing in you, that are growing inside your body. And so by ingesting these things, nose, mouth, rectum, skin, whatever, by ingesting these plant compounds, you then heal the body. You heal the body by ridding of the toxins that are festering in you, causing you inflammation. You heal them by breaking them down with these types of cells I mentioned earlier, by breaking down the cell walls and by breaking down these compounds with poisons, meaning plant poisons, meaning a good way, meaning antidotes that you put into your body that will break down those toxins, and then you just excrete them out. This is naturopathy. That's naturopathy, and this is what Danette taught me. My second doctor was Dr. Dickey Fuller. Unfortunately, Dr. Dickey has passed away. Lovely, lovely woman, a true fighter. She is the one who taught me the body is not a cellular system, it is an enzymatic system. And this woman was incredible because she was trained in both Western medicine and naturopathy. She had degrees in both. It was incredible. Dr. Fuller started this company called Transformation Enzymes, and you can go there. I'm not paid. This isn't an endorsement. None of that, please, folks. It's none of that. This is what I did personally in my journey. I don't get nothing. You please don't mention my name, nothing. Just go to transformationenzymes.com, and they have a network of doctors nationwide that they can get you in touch with, and you can approach your issue, your problem, through enzymes. It's an enzymatic function that causes apoptosis, the cell to eat itself. One of the central reasons your cancer tumor won't stop growing is because all those cancer tumor cells have forgotten how to eat themselves, called apoptosis. Self-immolation, they self-consume themselves. And part of the natural life function of a cell is to eat itself, to kill itself when it no longer is doing its role. It just takes itself out. This is normal function. Okay, that happens through enzymes. And so if you apply the appropriate enzymes to maybe one of the tumors you're growing, and it's going to activate the apoptosis function of those tumor cells, well, guess what? Those tumor cells are just going to self-destruct. They're just going to eat themselves. I'm not saying that always works. I'm saying that sometimes works. And this is what Dr. Fuller found out. And she used to fight cancer all the time using enzymes. That's how I fought cancer, was using enzymes. And she took my blood. She read my cells. I saw my cells on a dark matter microscope that she had, and it showed the outline of all my cells, and all my cells were stuck together. They were overcompensating. They had too much protein. The proteins weren't breaking down, and the cells were sticky, and they sticking together. And it was like you walking around holding a rope tied to 100 other people. Just how many things are you going to get done that day? Very few things are going to get done in your life because you're tied to 100 other people. Well, it's the same thing with the blood cells. And when they were all sticking to each other, when they looked at it in the microscope, she's like, oh, well, most of your red blood cells aren't even carrying out their function because they're all stuck together. So she gave me enzymes and supplements that would help those proteins break down so those cells would become free and they could then go do their job. Total non-invasive and working directly with the immune system of the body to allow those cells to simply do their job. You see, and this is the kind of thing, I mean, nutrition and enzymes, I mean, this kind of thing isn't even going to be addressed in the Western world. You see? And this is the first thing she was addressing when I approached her. So she understood where Western medicine was strong. She had all the laboratory and everything, so she understood the science. And at the same time, she had a very strong understanding of nutrition and the immune system and how to invigorate the body. So she was gold to me. She was gold. She was absolute gold. Every single thing that she said educated me. And so she taught me the power of enzymes, probiotics, gut biology, digestion mechanics, the immune system, that is the colon. And she, of course, led me to Jedi Master Chen, which we will talk about him in a minute. But Dr. Fuller taught me the importance of enzymes, the importance of probiotics, and how these are the instigators to healing, the instigators to life. She taught me those, and we will be studying those momentarily. And then finally, she led me to Jedi Master Chen. This Dr. Chen was incredible. He actually still practices in North Dallas. And if I lived in North Dallas, I'd be seeing this guy every week. He was incredible. He diagnosed me. Okay, I didn't know anything about acupuncture. I didn't know anything about Eastern medicine, none of that, until I met Dr. Fuller. And Dr. Fuller, when we were having lunch, my wife and I had flown out to Houston to see her, and so we were having lunch together. And right in the midst of the lunch, one of her assistants said, "Hey, should we refer him to Dr. Chen?" And oh my goodness, I mean, Dr. Fuller put her fork down. She said, "Oh my goodness, yes, you have to go see Dr. Chen." And so I was like, "Who is this guy?" And I said, "Well, who's Dr. Chen?" And she said, "Dr. Chen is an acupuncturist. He's an Eastern medicine practitioner. And he actually is just a few miles from your house. You're going to have to see him." So my wife and I get together. I have never gone to see an Eastern medicine doctor. Never in my life have experienced acupuncture. All I know is like it's a person sticks a bunch of needles in you. I had no idea anything about it, okay? Total rookie. All right. So we walk into Dr. Chen's office. I sit down on the bed, and shortly after we sat down, he walked in. And wonderful energy from this man. It was the most inviting. It was like, wow, this is incredible. And he walked in, and I hadn't told him anything. He knew nothing about my condition or anything. And he said, "Hello, Chuck." And I said, "Hello, Dr. Chen." And he said, "Okay, what I'd like for you to do is I would just like for you to lay on the bed." He didn't want to talk. He said, "I just want you to lay in bed." I said, "Okay." So he said, "Okay, I just want you to lay in the bed. I just want you to relax and just stay still." I said, "Okay." So again, I hadn't said anything, Tim. Okay, we just walked in. I'm laying on the bed. He said, "Okay, I just want you to stay still." I said, "Okay." So he took his hands, he closed his eyes, and he started right above my head, and then he moved his hands. Let's see him on the video. Okay, so he moved his hands over my body. Didn't say anything, didn't make any noise. And then he got to my groin and he stopped. And he goes, just like that. And then he kept going. And he put his hands down. He said, "Okay, you can sit up." You need to understand at that point, I had been raised in Christianity my whole life. I knew nothing about what had just happened. I had no idea what was going on. And so I said, what just happened? He said, "I diagnosed you." I said, "What?" He said, I know what's wrong. And I said, what's wrong? He says, "You have a very dark energy in your groin." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I have cancer." He said, I didn't want to say cancer because I didn't know if you knew that or not. But that's what you have. And it was at that moment that I realized, okay, this world is much larger than I've been raised in. Medicine is not what I thought it was. This man knows exactly what's wrong with me, and I haven't even. All he knows is that my first name is Chuck. He doesn't even have a clipboard. It was the first doctor I had ever seen or met. He is just standing there in front of me in a doctor in the scrubbies like he's got wearing in that picture right there. Fully diagnosed me. And so I went through the whole thing. I told him everything I'm doing. He said, "I love your approach, Chuck." He was the first doctor outside of Dr. Goodyear and Dr. Fuller. He was the first doctor I talked to where he said, sorry. He said, "I think that you're doing the right thing and you're doing a good thing, and coffee enemas are fantastic. You need to keep doing those. Those will help you." I said, "Okay." He said, "Now I have some things I'm going to do right now. And then after we're done doing the session, then I'll have some homework for you." I said, "Okay." So I laid down, took my shirt off, and he stuck all these needles in me. Now you need to understand that since about June of 2011, this was February, March. This was March of 2012. Okay, so from June of 2011 until March of 2012. I had been in basically constant throbbing pain in my groin for months and months and months. Always. It never went away. It lessened a little bit when I started with the net. It began to taper down, but it didn't go away. So he said, "Okay, I'm just going to do the normal acupuncture." So he loaded me up with all of these pins. And within 20 minutes, all of my pain was gone. I was totally pain-free. And so he put in probably about 50 or 60 pins. He said, okay, I just want you to lay there still and just try and meditate. I said, okay. And it was like this charge was running through me like I'd never experienced in my life. Again, I didn't know anything about any of this. I didn't know anything about electromagnetics. I didn't know anything about the chakras. I didn't know about any of it. All of it was foreign to me. So I had no idea what was happening. So I say all that to say, I did not go in with expectations. I did not go into that office thinking this is going to work, this is going to be awesome, this guy knows what he's doing, this is going to make a big difference. I went in like, pins in me, acupuncture, like really what? There was zero expectation that this would work, is my point. It was purely authentic what was happening. And I go into this deep, like trance-like state. And I'm like floating there, like I don't feel anything. Like I'm 5 feet off the ground and I don't feel anything. My wife is next to me crying. Jenny was right there. And I'm like, tears are coming out of my eyes. I'm like, I don't feel any pain. What is happening? This is incredible. And so he comes back like 45 minutes later. He's gone like almost an hour. And he comes back. And he takes all the pins, very quickly, he comes in and he immediately starts taking all the pins out. And he said, okay, how do you feel? And I started crying. He was so kind. And he held me and he hugged me. He said, you're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I said, okay. He said, okay, I got some homework for you to do. And he had me do the most interesting things. So he said, okay, this is what I want you to do. I want you to always be warm. Never, ever, ever, ever be cold. Every night when you go to bed, I want you wearing long johns. I want you wearing a snow cap. I want you wearing socks. The only thing exposed is your hands. Sorry. So he said, the only thing I want exposed is your hands. I said, okay. And he said, when you wake up in the morning, I want it so that the temperature that you are experiencing when you sleep is so that there's just a little tiny bit of moisture on your body when you wake up. I don't want you filling the bed with sweat. I don't want you not sweating. I want you glowing. I want you just lightly perspiring all night. This is part of detoxing the skin. He says, I want you doing this I want you slightly sweating all night. I said, okay. He said, the next thing I want you to do is, he said, you have 3 energy lines that run down your forearm. He said, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to go home and I want you to get one of those hanging bars that people do pull-ups on. I said, yeah. He said, okay, I want you to grasp that bar and I want you to hang from that bar as long as you can. Don't pull up, just hang. Grasp the bar, bend your knees, and hang until your hands have to, like you can't keep going. He said, I want your forearms to feel like fire. I said, okay. He said, all right. He said, I want you never to have anything cold enter your mouth. So do you eat a lot of cold foods? I said, yes, I love cold foods. He said, you're going to stop doing that. Everything that enters your mouth is either your mouth temperature or warmer. I said, okay. And he said, I don't want you taking any accelerant drugs. He said, do you drink coffee? I said, no. He said, good. If you drink coffee, I don't want you doing anything that's going to be putting your body out of balance. Your body, Chuck, is to be in balance at all times. Warm. He said, I want you to eat food, Chuck. Eat clean, healthy, organic food. I said, you want me to eat all foods? He said, yes. As long as it's clean, I want you eating it. Vegetables, meats, fruits, dairy, everything. He said, I want you to eat everything. And I know, folks, I know that many of you shake your head and are like, that's crazy. I'm just telling you what he advised. Okay, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not saying it's okay, not okay. I'm just telling you this is what he advised me. And he said, I don't want you ever to be hungry. I want you to be eating food and I want you feeling fortified. I want you feeling strong. I said, okay. And what I understand now is this is nutrient absorption. Because what happens when you have cancer is you lose all that, at least I did. You lose a lot of your appetite, you lose motivation, you just begin to thin out. And what happens is when you get thinner and thinner, you lose more and more weight. This is depleting your body. And so he did not want that to happen to me. I'd already begun to lose weight because I was on Gerson therapy. So that naturally, weight just starts pouring off of you. And so he wanted me to stay healthy, meaning he wanted me to stay not fat, but fit. He didn't want me deteriorating into a waif. And so he said, I want you to be eating those foods. I said, okay. He said, and he said, you're seeing a naturopathic doctor? I said, yes. He said, okay. He said, I have a supplement that I want you to take, and it's I've designed it myself, and I give it to all of my cancer patients. I said, great, okay. And it was a concoction. The bottles were white. There was no label. It was just a concoction that he made there in his office, I believe, or he subbed it out. But it was mushrooms. It was ground up mushrooms in capsules. So he had me do that. There was a few other things that he had me do, but it was all of these different therapies that I would be engaging in every single day that would be, again, invigorating and teasing the immune system to activation. The hanging on the bar would activate the grid lines, the meridians that were running through my arms, which would put fire into the electromagnetic system, sensing system that surrounded my body. And he was doing that. He was having me do that by igniting my arms up like that, to put the fire in them like that. And so it was this approach, this very cathartic, physiological approach to medicine, where I am engaging my body, working with my body. I'm not just swallowing pills, but I'm working with my body and participating in the healing process that was so transformative to me, because it was so different than what I had always observed. This was an entirely different approach that was very physical. It was very oriented to taking care of myself and putting myself through it, rather than taking orders from a prescription and just swallowing the pills. This was very physical, what was happening. And so this really spoke to me, that it worked for me. This was an approach that spoke to me innately. And so Dr. Chen fell right into that particular kind of set that worked for me. Okay, so let's look first here at enzymes. Enzymes and probiotics. Enzymes. What is an enzyme? An enzyme is a type of protein that acts as a biological catalyst. They expedite chemical reactions in the body without being consumed in the process. Enzymes are crucial for your health because they enable life-sustaining processes to occur at rates necessary for life, which would otherwise be too slow under normal conditions. And here I have found some pictures for you. So what's an enzyme? Well, an enzyme takes molecules here. We have a bond here of a substrate. They're on the left, top left. And we see the active site. There's the enzyme. And then what happens? The substrate fits the key of the enzyme. So this enzyme is appropriate for that substrate. And what happens is it breaks the bond so that you have two different products. So this would be like if you break a protein and you get two different amino acids. And this happens through enzymatic function.
Professor Dave here. Let's learn about enzymes. An enzyme is a protein that serves some catalytic function in the body. Remember that a catalyst is something that lowers the activation energy of a reaction, and enzymes catalyze biochemical reactions. These are critical molecules for living organisms because nature can't do chemistry like we do chemistry in the lab. In the lab, we can throw anything we want into a flask and heat it up, cool it down, use strong acids and bases, or any number of strange exotic compounds. But inside your body, nature has to do chemistry at body temperature and neutral pH, only with the materials at hand and using only the reactions it has stumbled upon by blind chance over the past few billion years. Thus, the enzyme evolved. An enzyme takes a chemical reaction that would be nearly impossible inside the body and makes it up to 1 trillion times more favorable, such that it is feasible to occur on a normal biological timescale. So how do they work? Well, every enzyme has a specific substrate, and the enzyme recognizes its substrate with extremely high specificity. So it's kind of like a lock and key, where a specific molecule is the key that activates the enzyme's function. There is a specific area on the enzyme that the substrate will bind to, which is called the active site. The substrate will bind to the active site because it has just the right shape and composition to do so, meaning it is the right size, but it also has functional groups that make favorable electrostatic interactions with certain key residues in the active site of the enzyme. The substrate might fit into the active site as is, or it might cause an induced fit, where the enzyme changes shape slightly once the substrate is inside. But either way, once the substrate is inside the active site and binding has occurred, a number of things might happen. One possibility is that the enzyme causes the substrate to bend in a particular way, which it will do in order to make certain interactions with the enzyme. And when in this bent configuration, some of the bonds become weaker and easier to break. This is one way the enzyme qualifies as a catalyst. The molecule would have a hard time breaking apart on its own, but in the conformation induced by the enzyme, the activation barrier associated with the reaction is much smaller. So many enzymes have the task of breaking down large molecules, like the ones we eat, to form the tiny components that we can use to build our own biomaterial. Once the enzyme catalyzes the reaction proceeds, the altered substrate leaves, and the enzyme can then go and catalyze another reaction. Most enzymes have names that end in "ase," so you'll know an enzyme when you hear one. The rest of the name usually has to do with what the enzyme operates on. For example, the enzyme lactase breaks down lactose, the sugar found in milk, into two smaller sugars. It is a deficiency in lactase that causes lactose intolerance in some people, because without enough of this enzyme, it is very difficult to digest lactose, as nothing is present to break it down once ingested. Certain enzymes break large molecules down into the small components we need for other enzymes to then build up all the biomolecules in our bodies, which is constantly happening in every cell in our bodies.
So therefore, the protein, which was useless in this sense for what needed to happen, let's say for the building blocks of life, which are amino acids, so that protein is not in the form, it's not in the energy necessary to begin the building blocks of life. So it's broken with an enzyme into amino acids, basic proteins, and then these then form life. These then are the building blocks for existence. You have a substrate, two of them, 1 and 2 here, and they go to the active site on the enzyme, and the enzyme binds those substrates together. You can see there, it makes a complex, and then what comes out is a product. So here we are, enzymes. Enzymes are catalysts, metabolizers, regulators, and detoxifiers. They break down and synthesize molecules while maintaining their form and role. Some enzymes we only get a set amount at birth, and as we age, they break down until we have none left. This is why as you age, you cannot eat the foods you enjoyed as a youngster. You also break down nutrient synthesizing enzymes as you age, so you are depleted in the abundant energy you once enjoyed. Petrodrugs often manipulate enzymes and enzyme pathways, SSRIs. This is why enzymes should be a first consideration when dealing with age-related concerns, depression, cancer, or any ailment. You see, enzymes. Lactose, look at there on the right. We have lactose and then a binding site. You see the binding site? Right? And it binds into the lactase enzyme. You see the enzyme right there? Binds in, and then that enzyme grabs it, and then it breaks it apart, breaks it down into the sugars, the basic simple sugars that it is. This is digestion in play. Enzyme roles. Catalysts. Enzymes lower the activation energy required for reactions to proceed, allowing biochemical reactions to happen efficiently at body temperature. They can increase reaction sites by factors of up to 1 million or more. Digestion, thoughts, recovery, sensitivity, all are negotiated through enzymes. Do you see how important this is? Your feelings, the ability to feel, happens through enzymes, through catalyzing of enzymes at your neurological level. The neurons talking to each other, this happens through enzymes. Enzyme function. This is why Dr. Fuller said to me, we're not cellular creatures, we're enzymatic creatures. Metabolism. Enzymes are involved in virtually every metabolic pathway, from digestion, breaking down food into nutrients, to energy production, like in cellular respiration, to the synthesis of cellular components, like making amino acids, like we talked about earlier. Catalyzers and metabolism. This is all enzymes. Detoxification. Enzymes helping your detoxification. Look at this. Liver enzymes detoxify chemicals, drugs, and metabolic byproducts, converting them into less harmful substances that can be metabolized and excreted. Detoxification, folks. You're going to find out during coffee enemas about GST. I can't wait to tell you. That's an enzyme that eats cancer cells. Regulation. They play a role in regulating cellular processes. For example, through feedback inhibition, enzymes can control the rate of biochemical pathways, ensuring that cells produce what they need in the right amounts and on time. And you see, it is those biochemical pathways that are what petro-based medicines deplete, because a petro-based medicine goes into your body and demands that the body perform a specific function. And there are ways and times that that's very effective, but then there are most of the time that is not effective as far as long-term healing is concerned. And so whenever you have a situation where you have some kind of drug being ingested that then forces the body to behave in a certain way, there are always repercussions for that. Those are called side effects. So anytime you take a petrochemical, there's going to be side effects because you are forcing the body. This is straight out of the mouth of my naturopathic doctor. You are forcing the body to action. And when you do that, that puts the body into dysfunction. This is why coffee messes up your biorhythms, because you are forcing the body to action with adrenal load. And when you force the body like that, it messes up your ability to metabolize energy. It messes up your ability to sleep at night because you are fouling the biorhythms, because you're forcing the body to awaken. This is often why a lot of people who are coffee drinkers drink alcohol at night, because it's the way they slow the system down. They are managing their metabolism by boosting it in the morning and then putting it to sleep at night. And what happens when you as a person are forced to do one thing all day and forced to do another thing all night? What happens to you as a person? You break down psychologically, because you're not built. You didn't come here to take orders. That's not why you came here. You did not come here to stand in line. You did not come here to obey. That is not why you came here. And it's the same thing with your immune system. It's the same thing. It's not here to, okay, tell me what to do next, master. Tell me what do I need to do? That is not why your immune system is here. It is not here to follow orders. And so when you give it orders with petrochemical medicines, you see what happens. This is why you foster the body to health. You engage in therapies that over long periods of time, years and years, foster health into your life. Bring it in naturally and gently, the same way you fall in love. You don't force it. You allow the love to grow. Every single time you try and force love, it doesn't turn into love. It's not love, because love doesn't force. And that's why, for me, it made so much sense to approach the immune system with love and not force. It was just in me to do that. And I didn't feel it was right to direct my body's immune system with a Western medicine protocol. That didn't make sense to me anymore at that time, any more than directing a person's spiritual understanding through a religious ideology. It's the same dysfunctional way of thinking. You see, it's about invigorating the spirituality. It's about invigorating the immune system. It's about invigorating and motivating the mind. See, these are subtle forces. These are magnetic forces, pulling and drawing forces rather than forcing and pushing forces. This is how the body responds. It's the same thing with your psyche. You don't like to be punched in the face when you wake up in the morning. You like a nice, gentle moment of awakening. That's what's nice. But alarm clocks, banging on the doors, someone breaking in, something like that, these things all do not foster an ease and equilibrium and balance, because the body's being forced to action. And it's the same thing pharmacologically. It's the same thing. It'll age you and it'll harm you and give you diseases. Okay, probiotics. What is a probiotic? A probiotic is a living organism that, when administered in adequate amounts, confers health benefits to the host. Like a sea anemone to a clownfish, beneficial bacteria and yeasts colonize in the body, and in exchange for their breaking down and consuming foods and toxins, we incur health by ridding of bodily wastes and pathogenic cells and materials. And these probiotics work in symbiotic relationship, helping your body stay healthy, feeding you and bringing you nutrients in the same way the little clownfish is bringing little pieces of food and little bits of nutrients to the sea anemone. And then the sea anemone protects the little clownfish. You see, this is symbiosis. This is beautiful. This is symbiosis. And it's the same exact thing in your gut. Probiotics is the living flora that is growing in your stomach. your colon, your gut.
Hey, Dr. Gundry here, and today we're getting back to the basics. We're talking about one of the topics I'm best known for, the microbiome. There are trillions of microbes living inside your body, including bacteria, viruses, yeast, fungi, and other tiny organisms. Most of these microbes live in your large intestine, also known as your gut. This community of microbes is called your gut microbiome. The majority of these bacteria are harmless, but there's also some pretty bad bacteria that can work their way into your gut. And in some cases, that bad bacteria can lead to indigestion, low energy, a vulnerable immune system, and even weight gain. But don't worry, there's also some really good bacteria in your gut microbiome. These good guys are commonly referred to as probiotic bacteria, and they're crucial to your digestion, weight, and overall health. See, probiotics can help ensure that your microbiome works to the best of its ability. When your microbiome is healthy, it plays a crucial role in manufacturing vitamins, helping your body digest food and medications, preventing bad bacteria from entering your bloodstream, supporting your mental health, and even helping you reach a healthy body weight. So it's important to eat a wide array of foods, including probiotic-rich fermented foods like sauerkraut, kimchi, or goat's milk yogurt. And it's also not a bad idea to supplement with a high-quality probiotic.
And what are the roles of the probiotic? Well, digestion. Probiotic strains like Lactobacillus, Acidophilus, and Bifidobacterium lactis produce the enzyme lactase. This enzyme breaks down lactose, a sugar in dairy products. If you don't have lactobacillus, you become lactose intolerant. Okay, so they are key to digestion. They digest carbohydrates, they digest sugars, they digest all different types of meats, vegetables. You could think of vegetables and foods that you eat as prebiotics, because as soon as you get them into your body's going to be using probiotics and they're going to be eating all of that. Okay, detoxification. They assist in the detoxification of the body by binding to harmful substances like heavy metals, petrochemicals, and toxins to facilitate excretion. Protection. Probiotics strengthen the gut barrier, preventing leakage of harmful substances into the bloodstream, like in the leaky gut syndrome. They help to prevent IBS and gluten intolerance. Unfortunately, I hardly meet a person today that I didn't know before that doesn't have some type of issue with their gut. I hardly ever meet people that don't have some type of gut problems. And that really is a byproduct of how we've been raised. It's the environment, it's the foods, the processing, and the chemicals that they put on the foods to extend the life of the foods that is so unhealthy for us. And so it's because of that, as well as, this is something that my enzymologist told me, Dr. Fuller. She said to me, one of the real problems here in America specifically is that mothers are not breastfeeding their children, a year, 18 months. They're only breastfeeding their children a few months, if breastfeeding at all. And many mothers now don't even breastfeed. They just use the formula from the store. And she said to me, there was a study done that found that if kids were breastfed for a year, they would never suffer, or they would have something like, it was a 95% chance less of never becoming obese. And she said if they breastfed for 18 months, they not only were most likely to never become obese, but they will never get diabetes. The averages of getting these diseases, becoming obese or getting diabetes, was lowered by like 95%. Just breastfeeding. And I said, why? And she said, it's all the probiotics that are in mama's milk. You see, mama, she's eating the local environment. This is where the baby is going to be born. So mama is already well adapted to everything that baby is going to be eating, because mama's going to be feeding that baby the same foods that she would be eating. So the baby is being prepared as she grows in mama's tummy. If she's growing in Africa, if she's growing in South America, if she's growing in North America or Europe, all of these different countries have different foods and different ways of sustaining life. And so the baby is adapting to that as the baby grows in mama's tummy. Okay, well, when the baby is born, mama is continuing to obviously eat the foods and everything in the environment. And so as she begins to nurse the child is still eating everything that mama's eating, because the child was eating food from the placenta. Now the child is eating food from the breast. And so all the probiotics, all the digestive enzymes are being delivered through the breast milk. Mama is delivering all the means and ways little baby, her baby, is going to grow up and be able to digest the foods that she's eating. It's because she's preparing the baby to eat those foods. And because we have now entire generations that basically never were breastfed or breastfed for just a month or two, right? They never got the probiotic load. Why do you think we have such a massive gluten intolerance? Digestive issues, colic, why we have IBS and all kinds of intestinal cancers and stuff that are hitting kids. Why do you think that is? According to Dr. Fuller, God rest her soul, all the women are no longer breastfeeding their children long enough. And so obesity is rampant. Look at America now. This obesity is rampant. Look at diabetes. We now have children that are getting diabetes. These are diseases that only older people got. Now kids that are 6, 7, 8 are 10 times the weight that they should be. And you've seen what's happened in education schools. Like physical education isn't even physical education anymore in elementary school. Like we used to get out and have to run. I remember in the 70s when I was growing up, man, I mean, PE, you were working, man. You were sweating your butt off by the time you got back to class. That's at least the way I grew up. That doesn't exist anymore. Or it's much less than it used to be. And you see all of this is pointing towards ill health. And this is why, I mean, it's Dr. Fuller's theory, and I think she's correct. The reason why the society is so sick, one of the base reasons why is not only the vaccines, but there's just no breast milk going into these kids to prepare them for the foods they're going to eat. So they're born lactose intolerant because they were never given the enzymes that don't grow in you. These are enzymes that are delivered through the mother's breast milk. They are not made in your body. You're given a set amount. And it's just, kids are finding out the hard way that they have less and less and less of an enzyme and probiotic load in their guts. And so as they grow up, just a few years into it, they start not being able to eat a whole bunch of foods. There's a ton of foods that I can't eat now because, again, my enzyme load has dropped. But the point being is that this is now happening to kids that are 5. Same ones that are getting colorectal cancer at 6. I saw a kid the other day that had colorectal cancer. They were going to be taking out half of his colon because he had colon cancer. And he was like 5 or 6. Folks, this is crazy. This is crazy. This is just, do not allow that to ever be normalized. That is not normal. That is not normal any more than a kid deciding their gender at 6. That's crazy, man. This is crazy. Okay, mental health. Probiotics influence mood and cognitive functions through the production of neurotransmitters like serotonin and GABA. And we talked about that earlier, how clean the gut, you clean the mind. Immune system roles, immune response, they stimulate the production of antibodies, increase the activity of natural killer cells like T cells, NK cells, and lymphoid cells, and promote the maturation of dendritic cells, the mediators, which are crucial to antigen presentation. Your body is constantly communicating. It is not dumb. It is constantly communicating within itself. You don't know it, but that is what is happening. All these cells are talking to each other, and they know what is going on. And you're just simply tapping into that when you give them the nutrients and you give them all the probiotics and enzymes that they need to do their job. That's the whole point of nutrition. That's the whole point of naturopathy. Facilitating these functions in the body so that you are healthy. The best doctor in the world, your own body, your own immune system. Reduce inflammation. They produce short-chain fatty acids that have anti-inflammatory effects, which can be beneficial, particularly in conditions like inflammatory bowel diseases, IBD, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, and Behçet's disease. Again, what are we doing when we reduce inflammation? We're increasing the healing. The healing is coming in, the healing enzymes, the healing products of the body come in when inflammation is lessened. It's the same thing as a burning building. You got to have the firefighters come in, you got to get the fire suppressed. You can't bring the contractor in yet, the building's still burning. So you got to put that fire out with all the fire suppression. Then you can call the contractors and they can come in and they can start healing the situation. It's the same thing with your body, same exact thing. You got the sickness, you got to get that inflammation down, you got to stop the bleeding, you got to stop the pus from being from infecting the rest of your body. You got to stop this. Okay? And then after the suppressors come in and lower the inflammation, you got the healing biology that comes in. There you go. Defense, they compete with harmful bacteria for adhesion sites on the gut mucosa, preventing pathogen colonization. Some probiotics even produce antimicrobial substances like bactericides that directly kill or inhibit the growth of pathogens. Again, immune system function. Immune system function. Autoimmune regulation. By promoting a balanced immune response, probiotics play a role managing autoimmune conditions where the immune system attacks the body's own tissues. And how much do we see now with autoimmune diseases? How rampant are those now? So you see right there at the center of that whole autoimmune function or dysfunction is probiotics. How often when you go and see your doctor, and I hope this isn't true, but how often when you go and see your doctor for autoimmune regulation, the first thing he starts talking about is probiotics. Some doctors do, I'm not saying they all don't. I'm just saying the vast majority, what are they going to do? They're going to follow the autoimmune regulation protocol handed down by the KM, which has nothing to do, I assure you, it has nothing to do with probiotics. They're going to chemically, they're going to pharmacologically address this. They're not going to address this naturally with naturopathy and probiotics. They're going to address this with chemicals made in a chemical factory. Do you see? You're hiring a mechanic to handle all of your art in your house. That's not what a mechanic does. He fixes the car. You need an artist to handle all of your art. You need the mechanic to fix the mechanics in your car. You see, and it's the same thing with your autoimmune regulation. You need probiotics. You need homeopathy to rid of the autoimmune dysfunction. You don't need more chemicals. Let the immune system handle the pharmacology. Provide what the immune system needs. Probiotics, enzymes, homeopathic therapies. You see? Okay, allergy modulation contains allergic severities by altering the immune response to allergens, potentially through the induction of T cells, which suppress inappropriate immune response. There's the T cells again. There are many different kinds of T cells. But again, these are all working to suppress inflammation, to suppress sickness, so that the appropriate immune response can take place. Okay, I'm sure everybody is wondering at this point, when are we going to start talking about the therapies? And there's a method to my madness here. What I've been trying to do at this point is to just simply give you some basic biology, which is the fundamental, or which are the fundamentals of the therapies I'm going to be sharing with you, so that when I talk about the benefits of these therapies and how they operate, meaning how they function and how they affect the body, it's going to be much more clear to you now, because you understand basics like probiotics and enzymes and the gut mind and working with the immune system, invigorating the immune system. And so it's all going to make much more sense to you now. So the first thing I want to talk about is apple cider vinegar with the mother. Now, obviously, and I'm sure many of you already know a lot about apple cider vinegar, but I'm sure there's a number of you that don't. Apple cider vinegar with the mother is basically a daily for me. And there's many reasons for that, and I'm going to get into that. But it is essential. In my life, it has become essential to my immune function, to my digestion. I used to have, and I've had when I was even a kid, I had digestive issues. And so once I integrated things like coffee enemas and especially apple cider vinegar with the mother, it basically eliminated all of my colorectal issues. I still get, cramps in my stomach from time to time. Anybody does. But it is nothing. I mean, it used to be 12 rounds when I went to the bathroom. And so it's that all those days are now gone. And so I know a lot of folks suffer with gut bowel issues. And so these therapies we're going to be talking about today are absolutely going to address that directly. So it may or may not be worth a try for you to give it a shot. Okay, Hippocrates, considered the father of medicine, used vinegar throughout his life, and he mentioned it in his writings, and there's reason for that. There's a reason he's called the father of medicine, and vinegar is a great way to get to that point. Anti-parasite, antioxidant, appetite suppressant, anti-inflammatory, and an alkalizer. And I'm going to read this next one at the same time. Naturally balances body pH. No more guesswork or pH water tomfoolery. And I say that to say I've never met a naturopathic doctor that liked or appreciated pH or pH'd water that's been put into a base charge. And just for basics, pH is the charge, is a register of the charge of electricity. It's the electrical conductivity of whatever it is that it's reading. So your pH in your soil, the rhizosphere for the plant has to be at a certain pH in order for the plant to thrive. Every plant has a certain field or arena of pH that it functions in. And without getting into all the biology, that is, it's required. If your pH is off in your soil, your plant will die, or it will just simply exist, not being able to access the nutrients it needs, and will likely get sick and die. Okay, you're very much a similar way. There are very specific pH values throughout your gut. Your stomach is going to be operating in like a 2.0, 1.8, 1.5, 2.2 pH, which is highly acidic. The closer we're getting to 0, the more acidic we're getting. The closer we're getting to 7 and past 7, we're moving towards alkalinity. Okay, so your stomach is extremely acidic, whereas your colon is half the acidity. And the operation of your bloodstream is right about 7 or thereabouts. Okay, and so when you go from a 2 to a 7, you've gone from a completely acidic, something that would burn your eyes, burn your fingers, it would hurt, to something that's completely benign, like just standard water from the well. It's just going to be right on a 6.5, 7. Okay, the point being that it's the pH value, the acidity or the alkalinity, that determines whether or not your body, the cells, can work with it. Even enzymes are sensitive to your pH. That's why you have certain enzymes in your stomach and certain enzymes in your colon and so on and so forth. They work in different pH values. Okay, so the reason why pH water is I think it's a big con, to be honest, and that's what my naturopathic doctors have told me, is because your body is going to maintain its pH on its own. And so what you put into your body affects that. And so if you are putting, in other words, if you're eating your meal and you're eating pH alkaline water, you're alkalizing, you're removing the acidity of your stomach, so your stomach can't even digest the food that you're eating, because you're neutralizing it with a base that you're drinking. And so you're messing up the whole way and characteristic of your body's pH function. In other words, you're trying to tell the body what pH you want it to be at, whereas homeostasis has found without your input, your body doesn't care what you think. It's going to do what it has to do. So I say all that to say, apple cider vinegar with the mother resolves that, and here's why. When it has the mother in it, it already has prebiotics, probiotics, enzymes in it. That's what the brown matter is that's floating around at the bottom of the bottle when you haven't shaken apple cider vinegar with the mother. The enzymes, the probiotics, the digestive help that apple cider vinegar carries is in that mother, is in the mother that's along with the elixir itself. And so when you drink it during a meal or just after, you're loading your body with the correct pH, which is what your stomach wants to see, something highly acidic, and you're providing enzymes and probiotics for your digestive system. And now you guys know how important enzymes and probiotics are. And it's being provided by the apple cider vinegar with the mother. Well, if you're doing that twice a day, after breakfast and after dinner, or during breakfast and dinner, you're eliminating so much of the work that your pancreas and your digestive function is going to have to do to digest the food that you're eating. You're placing a substance along with your meal that is going to be doing nothing. But it's like bringing in a wheelbarrow to people who have been hauling sand with shovels. By being able to shovel everything into a singular place, you can then wheel that dirt much more quickly than carrying it one shovel at a time. And that's exactly what enzymes and probiotics are doing. They're facilitating the field so that all the work that has to get done gets done faster. And that's what we've been studying. Okay, so by drinking this with your meal, you're assisting your body, and this is how. It slows sugar metabolizing to keep blood sugar levels in check. So it's anti-diabetes. It's the sugars that you're eating with your meal are going to be slowed in how quickly they're put into the body, how quickly they're metabolized and put into the bloodstream. And as you guys know, sugar isn't good for you. Sugar grows cancer. Sugar causes all kinds of biological concerns in your body. The sugar that's already in the food is all the sugar that you need. Okay, and so by eating or by drinking apple cider vinegar with the mother with your meal, you're slowing down the glucose metabolizing in the food that you're eating, so that then your pancreas doesn't have to put in, or any at all, insulin into your blood to break down the sugars. So your pancreas is basically given a nice, restful, easy life, which is what you want if you want it to last a long time. Okay, this is how you're facilitating the body with just a simple exercise. I mean, a bottle of apple cider vinegar with the mother is like $7. And it's going to last you, I mean, it lasts me about a week and a half, 2 weeks, because I drink a lot of it. But it's extremely inexpensive, and look what else it helps. Supports pancreas by lowering need for insulin and manufacturing enzymes, cleanses the kidneys, dissolves kidney stones. I had 5 when I had cancer, now they're all gone. Supports liver function, blood cleaner with excess enzymes. I'll explain that in a minute. Helps rid of ulcers and eases stomach acid production. Do you have ulcers? Do you have indigestion? Do you have heartburn? Apple cider vinegar is going to help with these things, in my experience and from what the doctors have told me. One of the best lessons I ever learned from Dr. Fuller was when she explained to me, Chuck, you need to understand all the excess enzymes that you have with your meal, or that you have with supplements and so forth, are all utilized by the body. Nothing is wasted. And those enzymes, the excess ones that you have, will be used to clean your blood. Your body will utilize those enzymes to clean itself so that it's healthier. So that therein, here you have it, when you're drinking the apple cider vinegar with the mother, you're providing your body the probiotics, the enzymes it needs to digest your food. Okay, well, if you're doing that with every single meal, think of how much you're helping your body age more gracefully. It's not having to work so hard to digest the food you're eating and keep you alive. It's being provisioned. It's much like having a stipend for your meals. If you don't have to pay for your meals anymore, that's a huge, that alleviates a lot of weight and pressure on your whole financial system, because your food is being provisioned. And so you don't got to worry about that anymore. And it's the exact same concept with your gut and with your digestion. You want to assist this body. You want to assist those organs in what they're doing, because the more you assist them, the more you help them, the longer they're going to last, the less you're going to wear them out. You see, and if you're having gut pains every single time you eat, and you're fighting all kinds of inflammation from ulcers and indigestion and pain, colorectal pain, if you're dealing with that every day, day in and day out, see, this oxidizes you. This puts free radicals into you. When you have constant chronic pain, this is pumping free radicals directly into your bloodstream, which are toxifying you, which are encouraging more pain in the rest of your body. This is why Dr. Fuller told me, hey, enzymes are going to help clean your blood. What are they cleaning your blood of? Oxidants, or free radicals. It is, apple cider vinegar is an antioxidant. You see, this is, by knowing this, your behavior will change. You will change. I guarantee those of you, many of you, who haven't been drinking this stuff with every meal are going to start doing that. And you won't believe the benefits you'll start to realize just from doing that. I mean, how many of us don't have kidney stones by the time we're 50? Think of it. Most people do. Those eventually are going to have to pass, or they're going to eventually cause issues and problems with your kidneys. Apple cider vinegar, doing this day after day, is going to dissolve those stones, just like it did in me, and just like it's done with many others. Your body, as Dr. Glidden said, and I hope I've played the video already, your body works 24/7 to heal you. It never takes a break. It never wants a break. 24/7. So when you're putting this in your body day after day, this is like an elixir, a cleaning elixir. You're putting through all your bloodstream, through all of your organs, every single day, every time you're eating, constantly working to detox and fortify your immune system. You see how important it is. Okay. And then here at the bottom, the pro tip, mother contains strands of proteins, enzymes, and probiotics, which promote healthy gut flora. They aid in digestion, clean the blood, and reduce symptoms like bloating, indigestion, heartburn, ulcers, body pain, and lactose intolerance. And here's some dosing. What I like to do is I personally drink a shot glass with every meal. And what I personally do is I pour the apple cider vinegar into the glass of water, and then I'll add some honey, just a little bit, about half a teaspoon if that, and then I'll just mix it together, and it actually tastes delicious. It actually helps clean your palate. It has a cleansing effect, so that as you eat your meal, it has a cleansing effect in the tastes that you're tasting during your meal. It's actually quite pleasant, and I enjoy it. And I used to get stomach aches all the time because I drank so much water. I used to drink so much water. And so what that did is that diluted my ability to digest food, which then caused me chronic stomach pains because my body can't produce this enough acid to be able to digest the food that I'm eating. And so everything is not being completed. So you sometimes, like I did, I thought I was doing the right thing by drinking so much water. I actually was doing the wrong thing because I was drinking too much. Water's absolutely healthy, no question about it. But the amount, I was drinking 120 ounces a day. And it was just too much. And so by utilizing apple cider vinegar when I eat my meal, not only is it cleansing my mouth better than just straight water, but it's also provisioning so much that my body needs to extract the nutrients and be healthy and maintain the pH. And that's why you won't need, and as my naturopathic doctors told me, you will never drink, or you will never need to drink pH water again if you're drinking apple cider vinegar with your breakfast and your dinner, or your lunch and your dinner. You eliminate it. Your pH will be handled. Your body will maintain an alkaline state by drinking the apple cider vinegar with your meals. Even if you're drinking beer and wine, it's going to not only help digest the beer and wine, but it's going to keep you in an alkaline state. It's not going to let those substances turn you acidic. Little pro tip here. The Amish make ACV ferments with ingredients like garlic, onion, turmeric, fresh herbs, etc. to boost immune function and in the treatment of specific illnesses. And this is the original antibiotics. And it's really true. What the vinegar is going to do is act as a ferment, and it's going to extract out the immune function that's in onions, that's in the garlic, that's in the ginger, that's in the turmeric. It's going to extract those compounds and nutrients, and it's going to hold them in the liquid, in suspension. And then when you drink that, you are drinking a concentrate of the immune function of all the plants, all the herbs that have been fermenting in the vinegar. You can see why this is so effective and why the Amish use this as a remedy for many of the sicknesses that they face. It's such an effective anti-inflammatory. It's a lot like cannabis in that way. It's a really good anti-inflammatory. Okay, and now finally, we're going to be talking about coffee enemas. I'm going to walk you through the process. I'm going to talk to you about the benefits, and you're going to find out why Rockefeller did not ever want you to know about coffee enemas. Okay, so they were discovered by Dr. Gerson during World War II. Now, as you know, you saw the story at the beginning of the video. And it was through the use of coffee enemas that Dr. Gerson discovered that this amazing thing happened to help the body's immune function and to heal more effectively. And this is what he discovered. Whenever you do a coffee enema, the caffeine that is inside the coffee metabolizes or is absorbed by your body, obviously at the base of your body, at the rectum. And there's a vascular network there, which I'm going to go over here in a minute. There's a vascular network there that carries the caffeine directly up to the liver through the portal vein. And I'm going to show you all this. When the caffeine hits the liver, an amazing thing happens. There are two functions that it causes. The first one that it causes is a pumping action called peristalsis. And this is basically, if you were to take a garden hose, fill it with water, and then squeeze one end so the water couldn't get out, and then started squeezing your hands one above the other on the tube that's holding the water will start coming out the other end of the hose. That's peristalsis. Okay, imagine, it's not hard to imagine now. This is how your colon works, and it squeezes the food as it's digested through your colon. Okay, well, because all those war patients were taking morphine, all of their colorectal muscles had atrophied because they weren't being used, because they were taking constant painkillers. And so the food was sitting in the colon and wasn't being pushed through, so it was rotting. It's called detritus. And it's a great way to put all kinds of free radicals and toxins and parasites into your body. Okay, that's why all these war patients were getting so sick. This is all gonna come into play soon here in a minute when you start putting all this together. So by doing the coffee enemas, it caused first of all, the movement, flow in the body. It began to push out all of the detritus that's sitting in the colon. Well, the same thing happens in the liver, and it causes the bile ducts that collect the garbage that's filtered out from your blood into these ducts for processing and excretion. Well, the caffeine causes those ducts to begin to pump in a peristalsis action, a pumping action that pushes the bile out of the liver. When the bile travels out of the liver, it combines with the gallbladder and it goes directly into the small intestine after passing through the pancreas. When it hits the small intestine, it generates an enzyme called glutathione S transferase. Remember in the video, A's, transferase. And the glutathione S transferase, the transferase enzymes that are in your body, are the most powerful metabolizing enzymes that you make naturally. And those GST enzymes eat cancer cells. They literally eat cancer cells. And when that bile hits the small intestine, the GST load, your glutathione transferase load in your body increases 700% every time you do a coffee enema. So what Gerson was doing was taking his patients, giving them 3, 4, 5 coffee enemas every day, so that constantly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, they have all these transferase, glutathione S transferase enzymes, traveling through the blood, cleaning out the tumor, cleaning out the parasites, cleaning out the garbage that is in your body, that you're exposed to, that you eat, that you're exposed to. Every time. And so those are the two critical functions that coffee enemas catalyze in your immune system. Removal of bile, garbage, detritus, poisons, toxins that are literally sitting in your liver. Every 3 minutes, every drop of blood in your body passes through the liver for processing. Every 3 minutes. Now, what kind of health condition are you going to be in if every 3 minutes your blood is passing over bile ducts that are swollen with inflammation, filled with pus and garbage that it has been collecting, that your liver has been collecting for years? How healthy are you ever going to become? Like what's your telos? Where can you actually get to if you've got a liver full of bile? Just how healthy are you going to get? It's sort of like how effective is your basketball game going to be if your ball is flat? I mean, you can't even play the game. I mean, you're not going to get anywhere. You can throw the ball through the hoop and stuff, but you're not going to dribble. You're not going to be able to play the game. And when it comes to health, it's a similar idea. If your liver is full of pus, infection, inflammation, and all of your blood is passing over all that every 3 minutes, folks, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out. Not only is the liver compromised in what it's trying to do, but that garbage is continuing to flow through your blood because it's not all getting removed because your liver is toxified. And until you detox, until you directly detox that liver, you're always going to be compromised in your health. Always. No matter how much you run, no matter how many nutrients you're taking, no matter how much work you do, how far are you going to get with a liver full of pus and infection and inflammation? That's why coffee enemas are so hated by so many in the pharmaceutical industry, because they're so effective. And I'm not claiming they're going to heal you of cancer. I'm not claiming they're going to heal you of diseases. I'm claiming, though, they detoxify you. Your immune system will be much better off and will be able to do its job much more effectively if it's filled with apple cider vinegar, enzymes, and probiotics, and all the garbage that's in your liver is being drained out daily. I mean, you talk about flow. As soon as it goes in, it's already being taken care of with the apple cider vinegar. And then by the time it reaches your liver, it's all being removed out immediately from the coffee enemas that you're doing. This is called flow, folks. I mean, if you want to know 2 techniques that you can integrate into your life for pennies on the dollar, literally pennies on the dollar, and you can literally start them today. Seriously. Anyone can afford it. Anyone can do it. Anyone. Health doesn't have to be expensive. Okay, let's go through some of the characteristics of enemas, and then I'm going to walk you through it. Eliminates bowel pains, constipation, diarrhea, clears away rotting food, effective treatment for flu, colds, sore throat, congestion, many sicknesses, cleanses the colon, and coffee acts as an anti-parasitic, antibacterial, and anti-yeast. Do you realize how many people in the United States have yeast infections in their colon? Have candida? Candida causes sugar craving. Candida causes weight gain. Candida eats the nutrients, the good nutrients that you have in your food, and it causes you to crave crappy food, sugars and gluten and the like. Coffee enemas may not be able to eliminate yeast infections, but they're certainly going to help deter them. They're certainly going to help lower their intensity in your body. And basically almost every single person has candida in their colon. Ask the doctor, ask your naturopathic doctor, ask them. They'll tell you. Okay, helps prevent candida outbreaks. So there you go, colorectal yeast infections. Acts like a stay-at-home liver dialysis. Reduces pain by draining the liver. Now, listen to this. Many do not realize body pains and organ pains are often from a dirty liver or dirty blood. And by cleaning the liver, one lowers their inflammation, which reduces overall body pain, since pain carries a backwash of free radicals. Free radicals oxidize and act as pain amplifiers. Again, straight from the mouth of my naturopathic doctor, Dr. Danette. She's the one who taught me this. Did you know that pains, body pains you're experiencing, lack of energy that you're experiencing, could very well be a liver dysfunction? Could very well be dirty blood, a dirty liver. And possibly, it just may be, that by cleansing your liver and cleaning it out, detoxifying it, and getting rid of all the pus and infection, just may help an ailment that you have that you would never guess was sourcing from your liver. If it has something to do with this, there's a very good chance you very well may be able to remedy or at least alleviate its intensity just doing these simple therapies, including drinking apple cider vinegar, which is a painkiller. It's an anti-inflammatory. And here's the Coach's Corner as we begin to look at how to do a coffee enema. I have performed over 6,000 coffee enemas since 2012. Coffee enemas have become a lifestyle for me because of their benefits. Constant detox, constantly in the state of detox. It's like that old Sellers acronym, the ABCs, always be closing. Always be detoxing. Always be detox. Always be thinking in the mindset of detoxing. That way, it's just a lifestyle. You're killing off diseases, infections constantly, every single day, just in your day-to-day life and activity. Apple cider vinegar and a coffee enema. Imagine the change that could come about in your life, especially folks that are trying to lose weight. Oftentimes that has to do with the colon. It has to do with obviously metabolism and just digesting the food. If you're not, this is another thing I learned from my naturopathic doctor. If you're not fully digesting your food, guess what happens? Inflammation, swelling, bloating. How many people feel bloating after they eat? How many people feel like they're bloated all day? These are anti-bloat, man, because they're anti-inflammatory. I've not seen a doctor since I received final cancer clear by Western medicine in September of 2012. When I had cancer, I was doing 3, usually 4 enemas per day. Gerson protocol is 4 to 5 enemas every day from about 5 a.m. and the last one is at about 9 p.m. And you're doing them every, I don't know what it is, 3, 4, 5 hours all day long. And again, what is happening here? It's the same thing Gerson was doing in the hospital with these war vets. Flow, man. You are getting the garbage out. You are flowing the body. And that is what, just like a stagnant lake, when it starts to get flow, we live by a lake here, and in the August, when the sun is out and it's, 85, 90 degrees every day, there's a film that forms on the water. That's not there the rest of the year. And the only reason why it's there is there's no wind and it's dead hot. Stagnancy. Immediately a film of mold begins to form. And it isn't until the rains come, the cold weather comes, and the flow comes that all that is removed. You see? And it's the same thing with your body. Stagnancy begets disease. Another phrase I learned from my naturopathic doctor. Stagnancy creates disease. If you don't have flow, you most likely are going to have some kind of disease that's going to get you, because you have to have flow. Your body has to remake itself constantly. That's why it's so important to have a clean mind. That's why it's so important to have an open attitude and perspective, because life is ephemeral. Life is a morphing change. It's a spinning spiral that never stops. And you have to adapt to that. You have to act like an adaptogen. You have to adapt to the environment that you're in. And adapting to the environment that you're in is called detoxing, because I'm in a toxic environment. So I'm going to detox because I'm surrounded by toxins that are trying to kill me, literally. So you have to be proactive. Do something about it. And this is the one way you do something about it. Personally, I have found coffee enemas to be effective at fighting diseases, and they also elicit anti-aging effects. Hair quality and luster improves, nail growth, skin and tone color, and wrinkle suppression. They also sharpen the mind and improve rest. There's no doubt about it. I only need about 4 to 5 hours of sleep every night. Every night. So the point being, this high flow creates energy, creates metabolism, creates vitality, creates potency in your life. And it's just simply wise behavior. It's like the person who decides to start running. They just decide, you know what, I'm going to go out and run 3 days a week. I'm just going to get out, move my body, run. Flow. What happens? Anyone who's done this will be able to tell you, will be able to say. What happens? Transformative. You start running 3 times a week, your entire life transforms. Your sleep improves. Your productivity improves. Your relaxing chill out time improves. Your diet changes. It happens automatically because you're starting to put mind and focus into what you're doing, into something that is benefiting you, into something that is bringing you health and vitality. You see, and this is called appreciation. And this will develop appreciation in your life. And the more appreciation that develops in your life, the more appropriate your behaviors and choices become automatically. Okay. My bathroom breaks are no longer 12 rounds and I rarely have gas. Before enemas, I had almost constant colorectal pain. It would have led to colorectal disease. Be proactive and stop colorectal disease before it starts, and I already mentioned all that to you. Now, to look at the science behind this, look at this here that I found for you. This is a picture of just a few organs in the body, as well as the vascular network that is taking all of the garbage from them and bringing it to your liver. So this is showing you flow. And I have shown, and I'm going to show here, look here. I've labeled this and all this stuff. Okay. So there's your liver. And I asked Grok to explain, because Grok does such a good job at times explaining things. So I said, tell me about the venous drainage of the gastrointestinal tract to the liver. And listen to what it says. The venous drainage of the gastrointestinal tract to the liver is primarily managed through the hepatic portal venous system, which is crucial for nutrient processing and, look at that, detoxification. Here's a detailed explanation. Now, this is just Grok talking. I didn't tee any of this up, okay? I just typed in that question and look, it immediately starts talking about detoxifying. Look at this. So here we go, the SMV vein, the superior mesenteric vein, drains blood from the small intestine, parts of the large intestine, pancreas, and stomach, joins with the splenic vein to form the portal vein. Now see, look at it's doing exactly what I was saying earlier. So these veins are draining the garbage. Look at them. They're draining the garbage into this main vein, the superior mesenteric vein. Okay, and then the splenic vein is feeding that, collects blood from the spleen, pancreas, and part of the stomach, merges with the SMV to form the portal vein. The inferior mesenteric vein drains the left half of the large intestine. Usually it joins the splenic vein before the formation of the portal vein, but in some individuals it might directly join the SMV or portal vein. So you see, look close right there. You can see it all happening. This is inside your body. The gastric veins draining the stomach, and here the cystic vein drains the gallbladder, joins the portal vein or one of its tributaries. From the formation of the portal vein. So right there at the top, right below the liver, all these veins collect right there at the top to form the portal vein, which feeds directly into the liver. We're going to look at that in a minute. And then the portal vein, notice the portal vein is formed by the confluence of the superior mesenteric vein and the splenic vein behind the neck of the pancreas. Listen to this, folks. All blood from the gastrointestinal tract and spleen to the liver before it reaches the rest of the body. Remember what I said? There's a vascular network at the base of the colon that goes straight to the liver for processing. The spleen, which filters old or damaged red blood cells and helps fight infections by producing white blood cells, central players in immune function. So the spleen also is participating in the immune function and the provision of its white blood cells, and then the ridding of the body of corrupted red blood cells. And all of this, folks, all of it is going into the liver for processing. Now let's look here. Remember when I talked about the peristaltic pump? There it is. We have the liver there on the right. See the bile ducts, the green bile ducts. See how they drain down? Look, into the cystic duct, which drains into the common bile duct. Look, it's going right through the pancreas, straight into the small intestine, like I told you, and then that drains right into the small intestine, which causes, oh, look at the name of it, the ampulla of Vater. What an awesome name. The ampulla of Vater then drains all of the garbage from your liver that's collected from the blood and the gallbladder straight into the small intestine. Where does that go? Straight out your bottom, folks. Small intestine will carry it through to the large intestine, processes it out straight into your rectum and into the toilet. That's called detox. That's real detox. When people talk to you about just saline enemas, folks, that's not real detox. Real detox is coffee enema. That's your detox. Because that's going to trigger this whole function I just described to you. If you don't have caffeine in your coffee enema, it will not do this. That's why the patients from Dr. Gerson who were getting saline enemas, they didn't improve. It wasn't until coffee, was added to the enema that this whole effect happened. Caffeine triggers peristaltic pumping action in the liver bile ducts. Bile dumps into the small intestine. Bile triggers glutathione transferase enzyme to jump 700% in the small intestine. And look, the pro tip, the glutathione enzyme family is considered one of the strongest and most potent of all enzymes. It is critical to proper immune function like apoptosis and cell wall liquefying. And I show you here, look, right here, glutathione transferase. Glutathione transferase are a family of enzymes that play a critical role in cellular detoxification, antioxidative processes, and the modulation of various cellular activities. Here's an overview, and then please read. I'm not going to read all that, but please read. I've even got the ones that are hard to understand, like what is glutathione paradoxase activity and what is the role of mitogen activated protein kinase. Right there, I explain it all to you. It's all explained to you. That's why coffee enemas are so effective. Do not believe the lies that they're not. They absolutely are. Now, one of the biggest issues with coffee enemas that people say, oh, no, it's bad, is in regards to electrolytes, because the enema drains the electrolytes. Electrolytes are the metal ions. It's the metals in your body, and it is through these metal electrolytes, these sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, phosphate are minerals that carry an electric charge when dissolved in body fluids, essential for hydration, nerve function, muscle contractions, and pH balance. There's an easy fix for this. What's the easy fix? Adding Celtic salt. Coffee enemas deplete electrolytes, so how is this countered? Celtic salt counters the electrolyte losses coffee enemas cause by supplementing Celtic salt in the coffee. Bioavailable electrolytes, namely sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, phosphate, which are all in Celtic salt, our bioavailable electrolytes are reintroduced, thus providing more than adequate replenishment of ions. Bone broth and coconut water are also good sources of additional electrolytes. And pro tip, I added borax to my enemas and did notice that my joint pain lessened. Look up borax. Look up how it affects the body. Look up how the doctor that invented borax found that all of his patients that were using borax, all their osteoporosis went away. Borax is a salt. It's an activator. It helps your body build your bones. Okay, brothers and sisters, here we go. We're now going to walk through the process of performing a coffee enema. Are you ready? Okay. So, from a guy that has done over 6,000 of these things, I have some good tips for you today, and hopefully I'll make this so easy you'll be willing to do this at least once a week. Okay, so first of all, you're going to need to get a stainless steel enema bucket with administrating attachments from Amazon. Or you can get it anywhere you want, but the easiest place to find it is Amazon. I suggest that one there that you're looking at. It has a brass exit nozzle from the stainless steel, and by having a stainless steel bucket, that allows you to put the bucket straight on the stove if you need to heat it up, because sometimes temperature-wise, it needs to be heated up just before you administrate it. And so that's a quick and easy way, because of stainless steel, that you can do that. Also, you don't want to use plastic. You don't want to use a plastic bucket. This one here that I listed comes with the administrating tips, and you're going to need those to do the enema. And then you're also going to need there two heaping spoonfuls of ground organic coffee. It must be organic. There is not a choice here, because you're putting the coffee directly into your large intestine, which is a much more sensitive organ than your stomach. So you're going to want to be very careful that you're not putting petrochemicals, namely dirty coffee grounds, into your body, because then you're putting those petrochemicals right into your sensitive large intestine. You see, that's highly absorptive. Okay, so you want to make sure and use ground coffee. You absolutely can use blonde coffee for 50% of it. Some people prefer that. Some people like to use a light roast coffee that's almost like a vanilla blonde color, and then they combine that with the dark roast. It's up to you. You do what you want. The folks that do the lighter roast believe there's more constituents in the lighter roast because it hasn't cooked as long. You can do the research on that and decide that for yourself. It's personal preference. Okay, and then you're also going to need 1 full kettle of boiling water. You're going to need obviously a half teaspoon of Celtic salt. You're going to need a quart-size ball jar, and you're going to need a bottle of organic coconut oil, and then of course, oh yeah, we've got to put on some Berry White, baby.
I've heard people say that.
Yes! So with the Berry White pumping, here we go. Let's do this, ladies and gentlemen. Spoon your coffee grounds into a quart ball jar. I got a picture of it for you right here. And then you're going to want to pour the boiling water from your boiling kettle. You're going to want to pour boiling water into the ball jar with the grounds in the ball jar until it's half full of water. And I couldn't get grok to draw me a half full jar. So see that yellow line I got right there? Fill the jar with half full of boiling water, and then your 2 spoonfuls of coffee grounds, and mix it together. Let it sit. And then what you're going to do is take the rest of the water that's in your kettle, and you're going to pour that into your stainless steel bucket, and you're going to allow the boiling water to not only sterilize the bucket itself, but sterilize the hose. So the water, you're going to allow the water to flow out of the hose and down into the drain, and make sure that the hose clamp that it has on the hose that comes with these coffee enema contraptions, you're going to want to make sure that the hose clamp is open so the water flows through, and that's going to sterilize the inside of the tube of the hose, and it's going to sterilize the tip, so that every single time you do an enema, you're sterilizing the bucket and sterilizing the hose and sterilizing the tip. That is very important, because infections, because obviously you're dealing with the rectum, infections can very easily grow inside the hose, grow inside the tip, and this is a very quick, easy, effective way to sterilize and clean that hose, so that every single time you do this, you're not monkeying with the hose and getting things sterilized and all that. You just simply pour that water into the bucket, let it drain through the hose, you're sterilized, you're good. Okay? Slightly elevate, here's the pro tip, slightly elevate enema bucket so it drains into the sink easier. Leave bucket elevated on the counter or hanging from a hook for later gravity draining coffee into the rectum. We're going to get to that here in a minute. I hope your Berry White's still playing, folks. And then obviously for the next 12 minutes, you're going to wait. Some people meditate, some people write, some people evacuate on the toilet. Everybody's different. But your coffee's going to need to sit for about 12 minutes so that all the caffeine is extracted from the grounds. Here I've got it written down. Your coffee needs to steep 12 minutes, so sit on the toilet, drain your bowels if possible, and meditate on how great you're going to feel and how happy your organs are going to be, thanks to your super smartness and doing the work to understand how to take proper care of yourself. You're one of the few, and I will say that, folks. You're one of the few if you're willing to do this. And I just want to encourage you by saying, yeah, great job. It has been extremely effective for me. I hope it will do the same for you. Okay, and then after 12 minutes, fill the rest of the quart jar with cold water to offset the heat of the coffee. Drain all water from the hose and bucket, and then close the hose clamp so coffee does not drain down the hose. So make sure you clamp the hose so that it doesn't drain the coffee out when you pour the coffee into the bucket. And then pour coffee from the full quart jar into the enema bucket through a strainer to strain out the grounds. It's okay if some small grounds get through the strainer. Your butt doesn't care, and I promise your butt doesn't care if your coffee has grounds in it. Add the half teaspoon of Celtic salt into the bucket with the warm coffee and mix until it's dissolved. And so what I like to do is just take a little teaspoon, half teaspoon of the salt, put it into the bucket, and then just mix it around. I hope your Barry White's still pumping, folks. Here we go. Check the coffee temperature in the bucket and ensure it is not too hot and not too cold. This is extremely important. Check the temperature. If you can get one of those temperature readers that are digital, you can get the exact temperature of the liquid instantaneously with those. They're quite handy. If still too hot, add another ice cube till the temperature is correct. It should be just mildly warm on your fingers, about 95 to 98 degrees. So if it's too cold, just take your enema bucket, carry it over to your stove, put just a little flame on it, or put just a little bit of heat on it so that it will heat the liquid up and you'll get it to the temperature that you need it. Take it back to the bathroom and get ready to administrate. With the bucket on the counter, use your right hand to grasp the business end of the hose and raise it above your head. Open the hose valve with your left hand and slowly lower your right hand, grasping the hose tip, and allow the coffee to drain into the hose. Once the hose is filled with coffee, relock the hose clamp. And then lube the administration tip with coconut oil. So you're going to lube the administration tip with coconut oil and lay down on your left side. You now have your hose preloaded. It's full of coffee ready to go, because if your hose is full of air, it will not drain into your rectum. The clamp is clamped. You're laying on your left-hand side, and you're going to raise your right leg to access your rectum with your right hand. Insert the tip into your rectum, and while holding the tip in place with your right hand, open the hose valve with your left and let the coffee naturally drain. If you hang your bucket too high, the gravity will be too much, and the coffee will go in your rectum too fast, and that will cause resistance and pain. You want just a nice slow drain from the counter. So what I personally do is I keep the bucket on the counter, and then I utilize just simply the height of the counter to be enough to drain into my rectum for the enema. And then let the coffee drain into your colon, and when all the coffee has drained, close the hose clamp, and then remove the tip from the rectum and lay down for 15 minutes on your left side. So once all the coffee is drained into your rectum, clamp, the hose clamp. You don't want backwash. Clamp the hose clamp, and then remove the tip from your rectum. After clamping the hose clamp, don't learn the hard way, and then you're going to want to just put the hose in the sink, let that sit there, and you're just going to want to immediately lay down on your left-hand side. Here's the weight. When starting enemas, it takes time to relax and become familiar with the muscles and nerves in your colon. You will get sensitive to it and better at it with time. The goal is to wait 12 to 15 minutes with coffee in your colon. Sometimes there's no way to hold it in, and evacuation must take place early. That's okay. Don't strain yourself. It happens. Next time, try to time the enema with your poop cycle, and pooping first will help tremendously, and that is probably one of the biggest tips you can get today. If you can evacuate before you do the enema, you won't believe how easy it is. You won't believe it. But if you've got a whole lot in your colon already, it's going to be more difficult to hold the enema. Just know that up front. And so if you've got, in other words, if you've got a bunch of impaction and you've got all kinds of constipation going on, you might have to do 2 or 3 enemas in the first day just to begin to loosen that stuff and get it out. And it's okay. Like if you get the enema in you and 5 minutes later you're about to blow up, go ahead and get on the toilet. Don't strain yourself. Let that stuff start to get out of your body. Your body is dying to get rid of this. And so the moment it's able to, meaning all this water and coffee comes into your colon and this stuff is loosened up and your body can actually get rid of it, it's going to really try to get rid of it. And so there's going to be a lot of pressure. So understand, just relax. It might take a few enemas to get to the point after a few days where you can hold it in long enough to actually get it totally to its ultimate effectiveness. It's okay. Give it time. You had to learn to walk before you could run. You know, you had to learn basic chords before you could play guitar. You had to learn basic rhythms before you could play the drums. You see, you had to learn the letters of the alphabet individually before you could read words. And then you could read sentences. And then you could read a book. You see, it's a process. And folks, it is so important that you give this time and that you're patient. I know I know. Nobody likes enemas. Nobody. I know. I don't like them. Nobody likes to. I don't like how it feels. I don't like messing with the hose. I don't like messing with all this stuff and my rectum. I don't like any of it. I get it. Okay? I fully get it. You are going to have to get past that. You are going to have to get past the mental resistance that you have to engaging in these kind of things. I know it's not your favorite. I know you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to, all this stuff is just, you just don't want it. I get it. With time, you will get through it. Eventually, you will learn your arpeggios. Eventually, you will learn your basic beats, your basic paradiddles. Eventually, you'll get there. It just takes time. It will happen. Coffee enemas will work out with you if you just give it the effort and time. Okay. Breathe normally, rest, and close your eyes to meditate. Some people journal, some folks read. Just relax and think about how great you are treating your body. Coffee enemas, unlike oral coffee, have a very calming and peaceful effect because the body is ridding of toxins, and this lowers biological anxiety and eases stress. Draining the liver of bile is a body-honoring act, and your body recognizes this and will reward you with health, vitality, and potency. And like I just said, folks, your body knows that it is toxic to be constipated. It knows that. It knows having diarrhea is toxic. You can't stay in that state. The body knows this, and it is working so hard to get out of that state. You're just simply facilitating it. That's what you're doing. You're facilitating your body to be able to allow it to do its job. And really, that's what your mind is for. Your mind is to help facilitate your body to be able to do its job. It's going to do the job. But your job, provide the nutrients, provide the therapies, provide the mindset, provide the techniques necessary to facilitate. Provide the knowledge, learn enzymes, learn probiotics, learn the basic biology of how your body builds and destroys itself. And by being familiar with those disciplines, you will make such better choices for yourself. Think about it. Think of how much your choices will improve the more aware you become of your actual biology. Imagine that. Like learning to race a car. Imagine how much better you're going to race that car when you get practice it over and over and over again. And it's the same thing with your immune system. When you practice therapies, when you practice homeopathic medicine, your body will not only get faster and faster at healing yourself, but you will improve your relationship to it, your feeling of oneness, your spiritual connectivity to nature, to yourself, to the environment will all improve because of the mental clarity that's coming about from all these coffee enemas you're doing and cleaning up your gut. You see the methodology? It's a real thing. The method is a real thing. Here's a pro tip. When gravity draining the coffee into your rectum, don't take deep breaths. Enema bucket backwash is not your friend, and I promise you it is not your friend. What you can do, one of the things I do when it's draining into your bottom, hold on to the hose with either your right or left hand, whichever way you're doing it, and you can cut off, you can pinch the hose and stop the flow when you start to feel pressure building in your colon. Allow that pressure to pass. Take some little breaths and just calm down and just allow the pressure to ease out, and then release your hand so that the flow will then go back to, the coffee will then start flowing back into your rectum. Okay? It's a handy little tip. And then finally, once time it's up, it's time to evacuate. Sit on the toilet and just let that bad boy drain. No need to push, my brothers and sisters. The caffeine will cause peristalsis in your colon, and like Hamburger Helper, it does just fine by itself. It takes about 15 minutes to fully purge. Read a book, surf the web, let your colon do the work, and like a new oil tap, the goods will be delivered. And I put Eddie in here because he's my dad's favorite. My dad thinks Eddie is the funniest guy that's ever been in the movies. So anyways, I use that just as a motivator to help you know you finally reached it. And I cannot even begin to tell you how much relief you will feel once you begin to drain all this out of your body. I cannot tell you how much relief you feel. It is incredible. And let me tell you something. Here's something I didn't think of. Understand that when you first start doing this, serious acid is going to come out of your colon. Okay, this is what I experienced when I had cancer. And after about doing it for about 3 or 4 days, what begins to happen is all that acid from your liver that comes through your intestine begins to burn your sphincter. Sorry to be raw here, but it begins to burn your sphincter so that every single time you go, there's a stinging sensation. My friend, you're going to have to power through it. That stinging sensation and draining the bile out, folks, that is all part of it. What you can think of, get yourself in this mindset. When it hurts like that and you know that acid is coming out and you could feel acid coming out, think of how much good you're doing for your liver right now. That acid was sitting in your liver. It was sitting in your gallbladder. And it was probably sitting there for years. And so by feeling that coming out of your body, you are feeling the pain and inflammation leaving your body. And when it leaves your body, it's painful. This is detox. This is hardcore detox. And this world is a toxic place. The bile, the filth, the infection is going to drain out of your bottom. And I promise you, after a while, it'll be sore. And then my suggestion is use coconut oil and lavender oil. Mix these two things together and they're an incredible salve, and apply that directly to your sphincter. That's what I do. Or back in the old days. I don't drain acid like that anymore because I've completely cleaned my body out of that. But folks that are just getting started, you are going to have an acid load and it's going to be real. So just be prepared. Just be prepared. It's all part of it. It's okay. And draining acid hurts. It's okay. Stay with it. Try and have a sense of humor about it and try to appreciate what you're doing. That's why I'm trying to bring in a little bit of humor here. To try and appreciate and bring a lightness to what you're doing, because it is a heavy duty thing. It's a heavy duty thing. And then obviously, here's your pro tip for the day. Make sure there's no toilet paper floating in the commode, or at moment of release, there will be a formidable backsplash spray effect that presents a challenging cleanup. And mark my words, my friend, when that happens, it is a very challenging environment, because what happens is this stuff comes out of your rectum so hard that it shoots down into the toilet. And if you have any toilet paper that's sitting there, it hits the toilet paper and it all comes out the top. It will... It's terrible. It's really terrible. I can laugh about it now, but learn from me. Don't have anything in the toilet when you're about to evacuate, because it's going to come out of you like a fountain. Okay, enough said. Let's move on. Okay, to finish up our talk here, we're going to quickly talk about some orthomolecular medicine. Now, this is something that I knew nothing about. I knew nothing about when I fought cancer, and I so wish I had known. I so wish someone had told me these things when I still had cancer, when I was still sick, because orthomolecular medicine is incredibly effective. It is incredibly effective. And basically what it is high-dose intravenous vitamin C, upwards of 200,000 milligrams intravenous per day. Obviously, this is being watched over by a doctor. You're going to be at a naturopathic's office and you're doing this. This is not something you're going to be doing at home in your lab. Trust me, this is something that you have to be tested for to do. We'll get to all that in a minute, but I'm just going to explain what it does here on the front end and get into more of the detail here in a second. Okay, vitamin C in large volume reacts with the metal in blood to form hydrogen peroxide. Peroxide is an oxidizer and it kills diseased cells and parasites. Now follow. How? Peroxides from the vitamin stick to the outer shell of diseased cells and oxidize them to death. Think of rust covering an iron beam and oxidizing it into dust. It acts as an overall body cleanse and goes all places the blood goes. Basically removes free radicals in the blood and hypercharges the immune system with oxygen. Okay, so here's how it works. When you take vitamin C orally, you're not able to metabolize it fast enough to get it to these levels that we're talking about here with intravenous. So that's why you're doing it intravenous. Now, when you put vitamin C intravenously at these kind of levels, at 50,000, 100,000, 250,000 milligrams, okay, in a single day, when you put it at that level, what happens is the vitamin C reacts with the metal, the ions that are in your blood, and it causes a hydrogen peroxide, a peroxide effect in your blood. That peroxide effect then travels straight to your tumor, straight to your diseases, because they're living off the blood just like you are. And when it hits that tumor, all the cells that are dysfunctional, all the cells that are cancerous, they're sending signals that they're cancerous. And the peroxide will latch to the shell, to the casing of the cell itself, and it'll oxidize it, it'll dissolve it. So just like rust, when you see rust on a beam, and it literally, you can take your finger and rub it on the beam, and the metal literally comes off as dust. It does the same thing to the shell of the cancer cells, to the shell of the parasites. It eats away at it. It oxidizes it. It basically dissolves it. And so when you do that in mass every day for 7-10 days, you basically are destroying and ridding of all the diseased cells that are in your body, and your blood literally takes it to your liver, your coffee enema, processes out that bile, and it straight comes out your rectum. You literally crap your disease out of your body. Orthomolecular medicine.
For 70 years, medical doctors have been using high doses of vitamins to cure disease. This has been somewhat obscured, to put it nicely. If you watch TV or go on the internet or you pick up a magazine or a newspaper, reporters, politicians, and even doctors will pretty much tell you that, well, it sounds promising, but there's just no evidence that these vitamins in high doses are going to cure disease.
Right.
And not only that, they'd be dangerous. This is what you hear all the time. And that's completely false. We know back in the 1930s, as early as 1935, 1936, a Columbia University physician and professor of biochemistry named Klaus Jungblut was stopping and curing polio with vitamin C.
Yeah.
And he didn't even use that high a dose. In 1945 to 50 or so, it was Dr. Frederick Robert Klenner. He was curing polio with very high doses of vitamin C. In the 1960s and 70s, you have Robert F. Cathcart, another MD and a surgeon, and he's curing viral pneumonia with high doses of vitamin C. And then we go into the 80s and 90s and into the new millennium, and we've got Reardon, Hoffer, Cathcart, many other physicians who are using high-dose vitamin C therapy. Now, here's what's interesting.
Yeah.
We're talking 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day.
That's a lot of vitamin C.
That's a whole lot of vitamin C.
Yeah.
Vitamin C works very much like an antibiotic, an antihistamine, an antipyretic, it'll lower fever, an antitoxin, and an antidepressant. Intravenous vitamin C is a very, very powerful tool. It's been shown to resolve various forms of cancer, including some of the toughest ones, such as ovarian and pancreatic and bowel cancer. These are very hard to treat. So high-dose vitamin C, as used by Dr. Hugh Reardon and his colleagues, actually show a very high cure rate. It's not the answer, but it's an awfully big part of the total answer.
It's an entirely different way to approach disease. And then here, it's an exceptional antioxidant and anti-inflammatory, has shown to have neuroprotective qualities, and is effective treating Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. Folks, are you listening to this? Has been shown to be possible cancer treatment option from its ability to dissolve tumor tissue and growth, as well as adjunctive therapy. Enormous immune system boosts by stimulating the production and function of white blood cells. As we all know, white blood cells eat cancer cells. Synthesizes collagen formation, which accelerates wound healing and de-ages. De-ages the skin and improves skin appearance. Who of us do not want that? Energy booster, shown to be effective for chronic fatigue syndrome, depression, and metabolically quickens healing time. You ever heard of it? You've probably never heard of it. And just here's the pro tip, what a free radical is and why they're so bad. A free radical is an atom, molecule, or ion that has at least one unpaired electron, which ultimately leads to chain reactions that damages the DNA, the encyclopedia of life, proteins, the building blocks of life, and lipids, the communication, structure, and storage of life. Free radicals compromise all that. Guess what orthomolecular medicine does? Eliminates free radicals. Because not only like apple cider vinegar has radicals to get rid of, so does orthomolecular medicine. The vitamin has an electron to give. It's the same effect as apple cider vinegar. Electrons to give. By providing your body the electrons, which we saw in my nature study, which are the building blocks of life, photons, neutrons, electrons, these are the building blocks of atoms which build life, right? Well, when you are dysfunctional, needing electrons, and you're an organism in the body, you see you're compromised. But if I do a therapy as the owner and manager of my body, If I do a therapy that provides you as a cell or as an atom that needs an electron, what am I doing? I'm provisioning what is needed by the body to be healthy. These therapies, coffee enemas, apple cider vinegar, orthomolecular medicine, Chinese medicine like I talked about earlier, naturopathic medicine, plant essential oils, these are how to heal the body. These are what are going to heal the body of chronic disease. They're not going to heal a broken arm. They're not going to heal a joint that's bad. Those are mechanical functions. Go see your MD for that. Go see your Western medical doctor for that. They are geniuses when it comes to the mechanics of the body. Shoulder injuries, sports injuries, knee injuries, I'm telling you, hip replacement, geniuses. Geniuses. But when it's more on this biological side, emotional side, brain function side, you're going to need to engage a much wiser doctor than any doctor you could hire at a hospital. You need to hire the doctor that's inside you, because it's the smartest doctor you can employ. There's nobody smarter than the omniscience within you, trust me. Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining me in this. I hope that this talk has been beneficial to you, enlightening to you, and I hope it's been motivating to you more than anything. I hope that just knowing these things and understanding yourself more completely brings about an incredible appreciation for yourself, which will change your behavior. So that's what I really want to do. I really want to help encourage a change in your mind, a change in your behavior, a change in your awareness. That's really why I'm here. I appreciate your coming by. Please remember that my GoFundMe is still available. If you'd like to help support the effort, help support my work and what I'm doing, I would greatly appreciate the donations. I love each and every one of you, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.